Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening in what is our final event of Indie Beer Week 2021. Fantastic to see so many heads join us again, so many familiar heads who've been with us throughout the week and a few new faces joining us too. So you're very welcome and thanks a million for joining us. Whether you're a seasoned veteran of these events by now or brand new to the format, you're very welcome and you're in for a fun evening too. Just to say off the bat, a massive thank you to everyone who picked up a beer box or grabbed a ticket for tonight's event, or just ultimately for your support in independent Irish breweries. The impact of your sport cannot be overstated. I think we mentioned it in emails in the past, but as the old adage goes, in terms of our breweries, we have to use them or lose them. And by supporting your independent local brewery, the impact that it makes, it's just, as I said, we can't overstate it enough how important it is. So thank you so much. The reason for Indie Beer Week in the first place, it's a fantastic occasion really to promote independent Irish beer. There's always a load of brilliant events going on all across the country where breweries would open their doors and welcome people in, check out the facilities, or run other events in the local area too. And while we can't do that exactly as we normally would this year, it's still fantastic to be able to celebrate it, albeit digitally online, but we're still going to have a lot of fun, and it's going to be good. And on the plus side as well, no one can tell us you're too drunk, go home, because we're already there. In terms of collaboration, this is a massive collaborative team effort and team event. The ICBI, of course, organising this. Elizabeth has been absolutely fantastic. Vaughn's been brilliant in helping out, and all of the independent brewers getting involved to make this happen. Lineman Beer Cloud getting the beers shipped out to everyone. And me personally, it's an absolute honor and privilege and pleasure to be hosting this evening, to be asked. So fantastic work by everyone to get us here this evening and ready to have a few beers. With that in mind as well, of course, I have a phenomenal co-host this evening in Wayne, Irish Beer Snob Dunne. And I'm sure many people are familiar with Wayne. He's been an absolute champion of Irish beer for a long time now. Absolute pillar of the beer community, and his podcast, going since 2014, I think now, provides absolutely amazing insight to independent breweries all around Ireland and the independent brewing scene. Brilliant to have Wayne on with us this evening. Overview of the event. Okay, so tonight we're going to be sampling 10 absolutely fantastic beers from brilliant breweries around the country. We're going to be spending about 20 minutes on each beer, talking to each brewer around that. So the pace really is to keep things moving, ticking along, and make sure we stay on schedule. It's entirely up to yourself what beers you'd like to taste within the packs or within the kind of the broad pairings that we put them into. Just whatever beers you do choose, just please enjoy them responsibly. And as I said, we've kind of broadly and in some cases quite tenuously paired the beers up. The reason for this is one, I suppose it's a great way to try and compare and contrast different styles that are kind of in the same category, the same beer style. And I suppose, if there's two of you there, it's great to be able to split them and share them. But if you're flying solo this evening, maybe you could just choose one of those beers and then choose to enjoy the other one another night, another occasion. Then onto Zoom itself. I think about 99% of the population is familiar with Zoom, but if not, a few quick tips to get you up and running. You can change your view window mode up the top right-hand side. You can change it from kind of like all the floating heads on one screen or to the active speaker mode. If you want to put on the active speaker mode, you'll kind of get the big screen of who's talking at the time. So that's kind of probably for the best experience. And the chat box is absolutely crucial. It's a key part of these events. We want loads of chat, loads of interaction, questions, comments. Please get posted in the chat box. We'll read out as many comments as we can, as many questions as we can, and get some engagement going on between yourselves as well. It's always really good fun. It usually takes about an hour or so till the chat box really kicks off. I don't know why that is, but let's see if we can get it going from beer one this evening, and we'll get the chat up and running early doors. And then finally at the end, I suppose we're going to wrap up at around 11:15, 11:20 this evening. That'll be the kind of formal event over, but we can stay on. We'll open up the chat. We'll turn off the recording and we'll let people finish their beers and have a bit of a chat, kind of a roundtable discussion. Okay, that's it from me. That's my spiel over, thankfully for everyone. Now, if we haven't already done so, it's time to crack open your first beer. Are you with us, Tim?
I am here.
How are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good to see you. Yeah, so first of all, I suppose while people are getting their windjammer ready, they're going to crack it open, get acquainted with it, have a few sips. Why don't you introduce yourself first and then tell us a bit about Metalman, please?
Yeah, sure. Tim is my name. From Metalman down in Waterford. Before I get into that, first, actually, Brian, I've just been asked to say a big thank you to yourself and your co-hosts on behalf of ICBI. Thanks to all the other breweries that joined and sent in beers and so on. We also want to thank Liam and the lads at Beer Cloud for getting the beers out there and facilitating this event. And thanks to everyone that's joined for the last 3 days. I'd say some of you are probably waking up with your hands shaking awfully at this stage, but yeah, so from us at Metalman and from the rest of the brewers involved in Indie Beer Week, thanks a million. And yeah, here's to a good night in store. So look, we're down in Waterford City. Windjammer. This is an old beer for us. This was actually our first seasonal beer that we did back in 2011, just after we launched. First batch of this would have been contract brewed down in White Gypsy along with our pale ale by Coulon down there. He actually famously to us anyway described this beer as that fucking potpourri beer. Excuse my language already at 8:10. When we launched it at the Franciscan Wells Easter Fest in 2011, it's like hops that he'd never used before. So this has always been our attempt to showcase New Zealand and their hop program. So you've got Nelson Sauvin and Pacifica in there, some Green Bullet for bittering, a pretty straight up amber beer with some nice tropical fruit notes from those New Zealand hops. The name is a bit of a story, and apologies to anyone who may have heard this recently on Mr. Dunne's podcast, because I think we were talking about this on there as well. The name, a windjammer, is actually a type of tall ship. We had initially, back in 2011, I say when we were getting going, the tall ships races were coming down to Waterford, and we wanted to have another beer brewed at that stage. So we had actually been homebrewing a bunch of amber beers. So tall ships, amber was our kind of pilot, but we needed a better name, I suppose. And it was actually one morning in April or early May 2011, we had somehow ended up with tickets to a Leinster Heineken Cup game at the Aviva in Dublin there. And we were walking across town and ended up going straight past the Windjammer pub, which for those that an early house just in the Dublin Docklands there. I've never actually had the pleasure of being in there, but anyway, we walked past it and went, Windjammer, that's an interesting name. What is it? Well, hell, it's a tall ship. Grand, there's our name. Off we go. So that's where the Windjammer name came from. Yeah, our oldest seasonal. It's come back a few times. It has varied over the years a bit with the way the hop harvests go. But look, that's something that we all have to deal with as brewers, and probably that bit of variation from year to year, batch to batch, is what makes drinking beer from small batches, small breweries a bit more interesting. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, beer is tasting absolutely incredible, by the way. Yeah, I just had my first few sips. It's a beer I always get excited about when I see it coming out. Personally, I love amber ales. The New Zealand hops have just been absolutely incredible as of late too. So a marriage of those two things is always good in my books. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So where you said it's kind of, you've been brewing it for quite a while now. Where did the initial I suppose the recipe come from, or when did you first brew it?
Like I said, it's going back so long now. We were homebrewing versions of our pale ale, I suppose, repeatedly leading up to that kind of March, April 10 years ago now, when we had decided to go pro, I suppose, and we were going to go to Coulon and get him to brew our first beers for us, while we, I guess, moved towards getting our own brewery set up later that year and starting brewing in Waterford from 2012. And yeah, I think we brewed a few kind of slightly darker amber beers at home as well, and said that would be the first one that we try and run with as a seasonal as well. Obviously, at the time, I don't think we had managed to access any of the New Zealand hops very frequently at home. So, as if Grania were doing this, she'd probably tell it a bit better. But there was definitely an element of, here we're going to use these hop varieties, Coulon, and here's the recipe, and we were relying on his experience and his knowledge of his equipment and so on to do a bit of tweaking and see what would happen. And as I say, he once he got to taste it, it was probably a lot more fruity and floral than a lot of stuff he was brewing at the time, hence the potpourri beer comment. But I think we actually had it on cask that first Easter Fest that we rocked up to in 2011. So it was that little bit less carbonation and so on that cask brings, and it was like, whoa, hang on now. We're really happy with this. As I say, over the years it's changed a little here and there, but this batch this year we're really, really happy with the New Zealand hop crop from last year has been a really good one. So
that's
great to hear you're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's tasting fantastic. I don't know if you can see the comments here as they're coming in, but people really enjoying it. Brian had his earlier, but lovely beer. Jason Kender loved the Metalman labels. I can't believe you didn't put Coulon's comment on the label. That should definitely be on it. Potpourri beer. So let me see now. Ruben was saying, I remember having Windjammer on cask at the Galway Beer Festival at the Oslo. It's so good on cask. So yeah, I think that'll be gorgeous now. Absolutely gorgeous. Just on the beer style itself. So an amber ale. What is that basically? What's an amber ale? How is it different to a pale ale, or what exactly is the style?
Well, really, I guess the pale ale, amber ale into IPA, it's all I suppose I find style descriptors, I don't know, a bit frustrating at times, because really these are all just ales that have slightly different hopping or slightly different blends of base and coloured malts, and they all tend to merge into one another. We're really bad at Metalman at trying to brew to style. I guess we just sort of come up with a beer, and certainly back in the day it would get brewed, and then we might be kind of saying, right, how do you describe this, and what's the closest style designator that the BJCP is going to let you into. But look, an amber ale, there's caramel malts in there, slightly roasted malts, coloured malts that are going to change the colour up from your base lager and ale malts. That's really the difference there. And yeah, I guess the modern amber ale styles tend to be pretty well hopped. This one's New Zealand, but certainly American amber ales are pretty popular too with American hop blends. So yeah, I'm not very good at describing these things sometimes.
I think that was perfect. Spot on. So I have a couple of questions and comments here that I'm going to jump to before I jump to Wayne and ask him, because I know he's had a few of these recently and how he's enjoying the beer. Just on this, Brendan said he's enjoying it. It's lovely and enjoys the low carbonation in it. So that's nice, and that's probably why it lends itself well to cask as well. Nice with lower carbonation. Anne asked, is this released every year?
We haven't done it every year. It has tended to whether or not we can actually find the hops. Certainly a couple of years we actually couldn't get hold of New Zealand hops very easily. And when we started canning in 2015, we didn't get to this one for 2 or 3 years after that, partly because of hop availability and just having other beers we wanted to get out. But yeah, we tend to try and bring it back most years if we can get hold of the hops, because it's the second beer we ever released, so it's a one we are very fond of, and I'd like to see it kind of hitting our brew schedules every spring and kind of making an appearance every April, May sort of time. So yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be great. Brilliant to see. Wayne, I know you enjoyed a few of these recently in your podcast recording with Tim and Grania. How did you get on with it?
Yeah, I remember even chatting on the podcast with Tim and Grania. It's a beer that I know I've had in the past, but it'd been absolutely ages since I'd last had it. And interested to hear what Tim is saying. It's only brewed if they actually get the hops, because Nelson can be quite hard to get this side of the world. Like the New Zealanders don't really seem to grow a huge amount of it. It's kind of, they're happy with the amount they're growing, but it's a really nice amber that's not overly hopped. I think Tim alluded to it. Sometimes they can go all American style and be big, brash, wild things, but this is just nice and subtle and with a nice little bit of complexity in there.
Absolutely. Spot on. Question for you, Tim, from Paul. Wants to know where it's on sale in Dublin.
Good question. I'm not very good at following up on our non-Waterford stockists, really. Anywhere that Radical drinks are stocking these days should hopefully have some available. Those guys have been doing a bit of our can distribution outside of the southeast for the last little while. So I'd say try the likes of Malloy's, maybe O'Brien's. But yeah, I'm really not great, unfortunately, at remembering or checking on our specific stockists elsewhere. So sorry, I can't be more specific on that.
Yeah, perfect. Lots of places online as well, I'd say. You can probably see on a good few of the online distributors as well.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I saw it on Beer Cloud.
Yeah. Good plug. So Tim, I know you recently celebrated your 10th birthday. Well, not you, obviously, Metalman did.
I'm a little bit older.
Fantastic achievement, absolutely brilliant. Going 10 years, doing obviously been absolute pillars of the beer community for the past decade, and your release decade as well. Your tart cherry coffee porter. First of all, I'll ask how have the last 10 years been?
A bit of a whirlwind, really. I didn't join the brewery full time straight away, but I'm in there 8 years now. So yeah, it's the longest job that either I or Grania have both had, because you like to move around and change it up and stuff. So yeah, it's been good overall, obviously. But running a small business is tough. I'm still not sure I'm cut out for it, to be honest. And the drinks industry is a fun but difficult place to be sometimes, when the likes of us and all the other guys of sent beers and are on the Zooms the last few days will testify when you're up against such huge competition in the mainstream breweries. It's sometimes pretty like, whoa, how do you deal with this? But it's been great overall, I have to say. And running a small business and a small brewery, I only sit down sometimes and kind of think about the different skills I've learned over the last few years, and it kind of rounds you out as a person in certain ways. It's fun, yeah.
Brilliant. And Granny's not off screen with the gun pointed at you, is she?
No, she's in another room. I think she's watching the Eurovision or something.
I was just going to say, Tim, you really sold it. I'm just going to give up my job and start working myself tomorrow. You're such an advocate for working in a small business.
These are the things you learn, though. It's working for yourself in any industry suits some people better than others, and that's probably why we've managed to get through these 10 years. That it suits Grania more than me, and I'm not dragged along, but I'm brought along for the fun of it, and it's tough. It's tough sometimes, but it is great fun as well. And these kind of events are brilliant because you can see that, you get the feedback and you realize, hey, 10 years in and we're still making a product that people like, and the industry has grown and widened. So it's good. This community feeling is nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very nicely put. And then I'm just one eye on the clock now, so I think we're going to jump to Owen now just shortly. But before we wrap up, Tim, what's coming down the line for Metalman, short to medium term?
So short term, we've the rest of our new Galactic Voyager series of IPAs coming. You might have come across the first one, Giant Molecular Clouds. That's a mouthful of a beer name. The next one, called Cosmic Horseshoe, is getting canned next Thursday. So we won't quite make it out for the bank holiday outside of our local market, but look out for it soon. And then we're about to brew the third one, which is going to be called Gravitational Wave. That's a kind of classic West Coast IPA. We're also looking at probably doing another 3 in that series later in the year. So we're kind of tossing around ideas for that. But yeah, just sort of enjoying trying a few different things and putting out that slight twist on the branding. The new series has quite a different look to it if you've managed to spot it on our socials or anything. So we're sort of maybe moving in a different direction branding wise overall. But I guess right now, look, we're all getting ready for the pubs to reopen and looking forward to that. So it's going to be a busy couple. And yeah, let's just push on, and thanks everyone for drinking Irish good Irish beer.
No worries at all. Thanks a million for making it. Congrats on the past 10 years, and here's to 10 more years too, Tim, to yourself and Grania. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, great stuff. Thanks again, Tim. So let me see now. We're going to bring back Owen now and see if we can grab him. Hello, Owen.
You can hear me?
We can indeed. We can hear you, but we can't see you. How are you doing?
Okay.
We can hear you okay. Yeah, if you can get the video working, brilliant. But if not, we can chat. Again, everyone, yeah. So we're on to our Indian Summer Pale Ale. If you want to grab that, open it, get pouring, and start becoming acquainted with it.
We started our brewery in 2013. We started it in the basement of the pub, and That's why the reception is so bad.
It must be dark there as well.
Yeah, it's a disaster. The video was working and now the video's gone, but you can hear me. Okay, look, I'll just keep chatting.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, we started with an 800-liter brewery back in 2013. As I said, it was in the basement of the pub. It seemed like a good idea. I was working in GlaxoSmithKline for 10 years in the lab and was just doing a bit of home brewing and got this notion we start brewing some beer. And so we met up with Brendan Dobbin. He started out the Porterhouse and he'd had an 800-liter brewery. We took it into the basement of the pub and we brewed 3 beers, a stout, a lager, and a pale ale. Brendan then left us, and this was we were looking at the kind of new wave of beers that were coming in at the time. So the Indian Summer came from that as a seasonal beer. I suppose it's kind of a session beer. It was only supposed to be, as I say, a seasonal beer for us, but it became quite popular, so we just kept it on. What could I say about it? It's simple malt bill. It's got lager malt from the Malting Company of Ireland. It's got Car Munich 3, got a bit of wheat malt. What else is there? The hops are all American, well, except for the bittering hops, which are Hercules or any high alpha hops. The flavor and aroma are Citra and Amarillo. Amarillo being my favorite hop. So we initially call this a hybrid beer because we messed around with low temperature fermentation, and we were putting hybrid on the packaging, and people were coming back to us and they just were, what is this? What's hybrid? It meant nothing to people. So we do a low fermentation on it, but it is essentially a pale ale, that's So it's as I say, it's just our best selling beer, and it's kind of it's the pillar of the brewery, really, you know.
Excellent. How are you getting on with it, Wayne?
Yeah, it's unusual you get a pale ale that has a bit of crystal in it these days. Everything has just gone ultra pale. So it is kind of nice to have that little bit of chewiness in there from the crystal and a bit of caramel as well. So Owen, what else? What other beers do you have in the range? Obviously, opening up in the pub means it's ultra fresh beer on tap. But what else is in the core range?
Yeah, so well, I suppose one of the other core beers was our Pilsner. Then we have kind of a few variations on that. The beer that we put into a bottle is a 5% Pilsner. The beer in the pub, because of I suppose it being a pub, is a 4.3%. We kind of initially, when we started out in the pub, we brewed 5% beers, and you know, it being a local pub, it just shocked them. You know, we had stories of people walking into cupboards and all this sort of stuff, and it was just new territory for a lot of our customers, you know. So we had to wind back to 5% on the lager. But our other core beers, we've got a Kerry Lane Pale Ale, which is, I suppose, just a variation on the malt bill there. What else? We've got another Bloody IPA, which is kind of quickly becoming our second selling beer. We have a stout, but it's a nitrogenated stout, and it struggles with the likes of Beamish, Murphy's, and Guinness. Even though it's a lot of people ask for it, but I suppose we only brew it now in the small brewery, which we relocated to a brew pub on McCurtain Street. The newer brewery now is a 25 hectoliter brewery, and we know a beer is doing okay when it kind of graduates to the bigger brewery, whereas so we're kind of just decommissioning the smaller brewery. which you can see, which you could see in the background at the start, but you can't see now. So we're just selling off bits of that at the moment. But what else could I say?
And how have the like brew pubs in Ireland are quite unusual. Like they're much more common in the US and in the UK. How have the local people to the pub? How did they initially react, and how has it been going over the last while?
Well, initially it was like, what's this? It's are you mad? And there's probably a bit of that, but not so much anymore. I mean, I suppose Cork has got probably a high concentration of brew pubs between Elbow Lane, Rising Sun, the Franciscan Well, ourselves. So, and now we've got, as I say, a brew pub on McCurtain Street, which is we're only commissioning at the moment, but I suppose we're focusing that really as a restaurant, but we're not operating it ourselves. But it's I suppose we were kind of brave in some regards, or maybe foolish, with that brew pub, because our pub up in Mayfield has the regular beers, as I mean the mainstream beers. The one in McCurtain Street, we just said no, we're going all out craft, you know. So look, it's early days with that. It's difficult opening it in the middle of a pandemic. But look, I shouldn't mention those words, I suppose.
Yeah, that'll be bleeped out later.
Just a couple of comments to catch up on here. We've had some great ones. Luke said Indian summer is effing gorgeous, and that was exactly how it was written. Chris says there's a real taste of caramel coming through with it, which is lovely. Picked up on what you were saying, Wayne. And Ruben was saying, yeah, can't believe after all these years I still haven't made it to the brew pub. So yeah, with the brew pub being, I suppose, an integral part of the business. Obviously, last year hasn't been easy for anyone, but it must have been particularly difficult for yourselves. How has the local support been in terms of kind of getting behind the beers as the doors have been shut?
Well, I suppose we've been going. I mean, we've been operating. Like, we took a week off in the middle of the pandemic when everybody was going bananas, and we've been operating throughout. We got in a growler system, and the growler system actually kind of saved us in a way. Like, we had 5 2,000-liter vessels that, you know, a lot of that was for keg. And I said, one of the guys said to me, you know, we really should just, you know, put this out through the off license. And I said, that'll never work. And we only lost maybe half a tank, which was some going in a way. Obviously, we had to take the beer back from the various pubs or what have you, and like there's still a little bit of that going on. But yeah, look, it's I suppose what we did is we just kind of, you know, I suppose, you know, innovate or whatever. I mean, a lot of people use those words, but we had to kind of come up with something to keep us ticking over, you know. And the growler system was, we even put some into the local supermarkets, and the growler systems were interesting for a while, and people were, geez, because they couldn't get anything else. There was no pubs open, so they were novel for a while, but we've got massively in behind the growler system now, and it's going very well, and people really buying into it. Now, I presume when the pubs open again, it'll you know, there'll be less interest in it. But we bought another growler system for for the lounge part of the bar. I'm sure that'll be entertainment for the locals, because there's a bit of theatre in these growler systems where, you know, you see the whole thing filling, and it's just a bit of fun, you know. And it's we hope they appreciate our efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. The beer itself is getting a lot of love here, a lot of really good feedback in the comments in the chat. John was saying, not sure that I've ever had a cotton ball beer before, but we'll definitely keep an eye out for them in the future. It's a lovely smooth beer, and the aroma hops are superb.
Yeah,
so
I suppose we like why some of our beers are They might have a bit of crystal malt in. I suppose we were trained up by Brendan Dobbin, who's essentially was an English ale brewer, and I suppose that kind of influence might come across in some of our initial offerings anyway. Particularly our two flagship pale ales, and we kind of had to kind of draw a line. Maybe back in 2017, we said we had to kind of steer a little bit to some of the more newer styles that were coming in. No, we still haven't brewed a New England. We brewed it. We were before the pandemic hit. We were starting on things like New England IPAs and stuff like that. But it was really for the on trade that we were doing this. We didn't feel that it was a good thing for a bottle. But look, I suppose the brew pub is the brew pub in the city centre is the big focus for us, because it allows us to experiment a bit more without I suppose competition really.
Sure. A good few people picking up on the caramel, the crystal malts, lovely stuff, says Brian. Justin, this is a lovely, easy drinking pale ale. It's a bit similar to a traditional English pale ale with caramel and light orange. So that's exactly what you were saying with your who you got trained up with. It's obviously it's an incredibly difficult time to be making any sort of plans on looking forward. But what's in the pipeline for Cotton Ball at the moment?
Really, it's we're going to see what happens. I mean, as Tim said there, it's running small businesses is no small thing, and I suppose we're just watching where the whole restaurants, bars land, and kind of I suppose just dealing with our customers and helping them get back on their feet, and I presume there will be some that may not, and really it's just seeing where everything lands, like we do have some beers in the pipeline, but I suppose we have some discussion about a canning machine as well. This canning machine we've been talking about a canning machine for the last 2-3 years, but I've always tried to focus on the on-trade really as much as I can, but I suppose we just maybe have to move to some of the newer packaging styles,
Yeah. Plus they're outrageously expensive as well. Canning machines.
I have a feeling we might be cranking. So it might be very manual canning machine.
There's a few of them, definitely.
I think there's something coming. I haven't been told, but manual canning machine. Cringe. We give it a go.
It sounds like fun. People might be missing on canning day strategically or conveniently.
Well, I suppose there is some of the brew pubs are supplying cans out through the pub. I mean, they're not cans that you'd want to be sending far and wide, but I think that's the kind of route we'll be taking,
Okay, brilliant. Owen, thanks a million. Absolute pleasure chatting, and thanks a million for coming on. Our first time chatting as well, so it's really, really nice to be speaking with you. It's fantastic. Folks, final comments in the chat box there. Let Owen know how you're getting on with the beer, what you think of it. Obviously there's getting a lot of enjoyment there. Okay, brilliant. Thanks a million, Owen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now so we're staying in Cork, and we are going to have a chat with Darren from Blacks, and we're going to get our session IPA, Pink Grapefruit. Are you there, Darren?
I'm here, Brian. How's it going?
How's it going? Good. Long time no see.
Man, yeah, I know indeed. Yeah. I enjoyed it so much yesterday and back again today. It's good. It's good crack. It was good crack last night, but I'm a bit more mellow today now. I was flying along there yesterday. I said I've got to be a bit more chill today, but yeah, things are good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Good. It's nice. I was watching the recording back this morning. Editing. It was completely dark where you were. It's nice to see it's actually bright where you are now. So it's a different pace we'll be at.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, folks. Now is your cue. Grab your the session grapefruit IPA, pour it, get in the glass, have a few tastes, become acquainted with it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask Darren to introduce himself and Black's Brewery as well, please.
Yeah. So Darren Murphy. I'm brand ambassador at Black's Brewery and Distillery in Kinsale. I'm with the guys for about 3 years. Yeah, great place to work. I always say it. It's a great company, great organization, great people. And it's fun. It's a fun job. Black's is in Kinsale, in Cork, so a nice part of the world. So I get to work in a lovely part of the world. And on a Friday we can go downtown and get the best fish and chips around, which is nice. So that's one of the perks of being in Kinsale, and it's just a really great place. And I suppose we're really looking forward as well to pubs getting open in Kinsale and getting things back moving with the pub business, keg business. That'll be great. Yeah, Black's was founded in 2013, so we've been around for a little while. Sam, I suppose, kicked off the whole brewing thing in 2013, which was relatively early for the Irish craft beer scene. But the brew team is headed up by Ronan Russell now, and he's doing a great job. Brewing some really, really good beers. From the hardware side of things, we installed a new brew kit last year. We a nice 30 hectoliter stainless steel vessels brew kit. So it's fully automated, state-of-the-art brew kit, which is awesome, and it gives the guys the opportunity to produce really, really good beers and be flexible and produce a lot of different styles as well. So that's really, really exciting, and I think we're only just getting moving with that. There's loads of potential in the kit, and the guys are growing and with it and doing really, really well. So that's really cool. And I suppose the other side of the business is the distilling, which is grown. We started making whiskey last year. We have been making gin and rum, the first Irish rum ever previously. We're getting into the whiskey business now as well. So loads going on, loads to do. I guess we can chat a little bit about the beer as well. The Session Pink Grapefruit IPA, 3.4 ABV. I guess first of all, the idea behind that is we have a Session IPA, and we have had a Session IPA in the core range for many years, and it does well for us. But we thought we'd have a look at it and see if we can, I suppose, pimp it up a little bit, for want of a better word. Fruity beers are in, and we said let's try it with Pink Grapefruit, do it in the 440 ml can format, which is kind of how we launched the seasonal and special stuff. Give it a whirl and see if it's more popular than the regular Session, and then we'll have to have a conversation and say, hey, are we going to keep the Session, or are we going to go for the Pink Grapefruit option? So that's still up for discussion. So it'd be great to hear some feedback in the comments today about what people think about this. For me, on the nose, it's just screaming grapefruit, which is what you want from a grapefruit beer, I suppose. And it's a really sessionable one, 3.4 ABV, as I said, and it's kind of one where I'd say if you're having a barbecue, if you're on the weekend, you're drinking a few beers during the day, or you're just you're doing some sausages or grilled chicken or whatever, just have fun with it. It's one of those where you just drink away, and it's nice and fruity and light and easygoing, refreshing. All those wonderful words, to describe just a really nice, light, easygoing beer. I think from the hop perspective, it's kind of pretty classic Cascade Citra combination. So it's lovely, obviously US hop varieties and some grapefruit added in there. And it's just a wonderful beer. I'm really enjoying it. We've got really good feedback from it. I think the guys in Grand Cru Beers, the distributor, they're really happy with it. So that's always good news. And it was featured in the Irish Examiner as beer of the week or beer of the month. Anyway, yesterday I saw it online there, so that was really nice as well to get a shout out on the Irish Examiner for that one. So it's a nice beer.
Brilliant. It's been very well received so far in the comments anyway, and it sounds like publicly or nationally in the papers too. That's fantastic. As you said, full on grapefruit, wow, there's no mistaking that. As soon as you open the can, it hits you in the face.
Absolutely. Yeah. I suppose chatting to the guys in the brewery, I think we're always kind of saying if it says grapefruit, on the can, it shouldn't be just somewhere a bit of grapefruit in the background. It needs to be grapefruity, and I think they've really achieved that, which is fantastic. I suppose food pairing wise, I'm putting my beer sommelier hat on now. You could probably just drink it with anything at all, any food you like. I'd say keep it nice and easy going and fun like the beer is. And yeah, as I said, perfect probably for a barbecue. I mean, that's how I'd see it. Summertime, very refreshing, barbecue beer. There you go. You can't go wrong, you know.
I can't really add much more to what you've said, Darren. It's absolutely smashable, and hashtag drink responsibly. Like, yeah. I can imagine you're working in the garden or mowing the lawn, and you're like, bloody hell, it's roasting out, and you just crack one of these. It's just instant refreshment. And sometimes with grapefruit beers, the grapefruit can go too far, and you get that real pithy quality. This is just amazing aroma. The grapefruit is there in the flavor, but it's restrained. It's not slapping you in the face grapefruit, but it's just refreshing grapefruit, which is amazing. But the most important question I have to ask you is, where is the best fish and chips in Kinsale? It's got to be Dunne.
Oh my God. Okay, well, that's a very good question, Wayne. Right, and I've got to be careful how I answer that one now, because obviously we do business with a few restaurants and bars that are doing fish and chips in Kinsale. Personally, for me, if you're going for a takeaway, drive past Kinsale as you're heading towards Garrettstown Beach. There's a little bridge there where you'd normally turn left. There's a fish and chip truck right there on the corner pretty much every day, which has just like fish and chips up on it. That doesn't even have an official name, I don't think, anyhow. But the guy in there, which what I really like about it, is he catches the fish in the morning himself, and he's frying the fish, and it's done beautifully. And when you go there and you say, like, what have you got today? He'll say, well, today it's like, I've got cod and hake, but then you have things like kibling, or he might have monkfish, or he's got plaice or lemon sole. So that's all he does: fish, chips, and you can get like a can of Coke or something like that as well. So that's really good. If you're going to sit down for fish and chips, they're all great. There's a whole selection. I just say, try it out and see which one's your own favorite there. I'm gonna sit in the fence of that one, Wayne.
I don't blame you. My parents-in-law go down to Kinsale all the time, and I think they just love going to Dino's and all the really nice places to eat in Kinsale. It's been far too long since we were last down there.
Man, if you're coming down that way, drop us a line and make sure you come and say hi, because we'd love to see you.
I admire your fence sitting ability, so that's stellar.
Yeah, look, I mean, to be honest, right, and I suppose on a serious note, it's been really difficult for a lot of businesses in Kinsale, because it's a really tourism driven town, and they do it really, really well, and there's from traditional to innovative, and it's been really, really tough, as it has been for a lot of people in the beer industry as well, in the production side. But it's been really tough for staff, for owners, for everyone involved, and I suppose I really feel that getting open now soon, and hopefully staying open and just driving it on through the summer, we can get back to enjoying the business, because I think, like, I did hospitality myself for many years, and a big part of the thing is, you're going there to make people happy. You get a kick out of making people happy, serving them, they have a good time, you have a good time, and that's been taken away from us, unfortunately. So getting back open and being able to go in for a pint, I mean, Jesus, there's nothing better than going in for a pint. I mean, I love cans, I love bottles, don't get me wrong, they're all great, but yeah, just going to a bar and the banter, I'm really looking forward to anyway. I don't know about everyone else, but I just can't wait.
Yeah, and there's some Kinsale, as you said, is such a tourist driven town. There's great bars, great restaurants, there's those lovely things to do all close by. It is an absolutely great place to visit, and if anyone hasn't been to Kinsale, I absolutely recommend it. We've been down there several times. Just saw a comment there. Is it grapefruit extract or fresh grapefruit that is used in the brew?
That's a very good question. There's a little bit of terpene, and there's fresh grapefruit in there as well.
Okay. There's also calls for you to go into politics after you finish your career.
Well, my old man always said I should have been a politician. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to stick with the beer business. I think it's more fun. Sometimes I see the criticism that politicians get online and that, and I'm just like, oh man, no thanks. I couldn't be listening to that now. So I'm happy to be in the beer business.
Wait until you see the blowback from the fish and chip scandal after this recording gets out. Be nothing like what the politicians get.
I'll be getting trolled on Twitter now after this with the fish and chip scandal. But look, I think we'll handle that. It'll be all good. There's no such thing as bad publicity, isn't that what they say? So I suppose it'll be good. Yeah, absolutely. if anyone is popping down Kinsale over the summer, or whatever, you guys look me up. You'll find me on Facebook there, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. You can mail me at the brewery if you're coming down around the place. Be delighted to see you. Hopefully we can't have tours right now, but hopefully soon enough we'll be back with tours as well. Let's see how that develops. We're not allowed to have anyone down on site right now, but hopefully we will. Or if you're just looking for a recommendation for food or for drinks or whatever else, or you're going to be coming down for the daytime and you want to know what's the best beach to go to or whatever else, get in touch. I'm always happy to hear from everyone. We can chat a little about beer and whatever else. It's always good to hear from beer community.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Very, very open and generous with your time, Darren. You're an absolute gent.
Try my best.
Yeah.
Look, if I'm busy, I might have to get one of those sitting on the fence answers out again and up the walls. But I will try. And I think the business that we're in, like it's an awful lot about passion and about good people, and that's all. I'm all for encouraging connectivity and getting in touch. And yeah, that's my mantra anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic to hear. Brilliant. Richard was saying lots of grapefruit on the nose. It feels a bit like a Radler to him. Great for summer. I think that's a good shout. Kind of has that kind of Radler feel about it.
It does. Yeah. I mean, Radlers have become kind of trendy in the last years, and I always used to, when I was working in Austria, people. I suppose the Austrian people used to be like, so what's the difference between a Radler and a Shandy? And I was like, well, I think it's kind of cultural. I mean, and then I got to learn eventually, like in the UK, they do lager tops and stuff like that as well. So that's all quite fun. But yeah, I suppose it does have the fruity element of it and the lower ABV. So it's not far from a Radler, but it's not mixed with lemonade or anything like that. So, but yeah, good shout, and great that the grapefruit has come through.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely stuff. Yeah, Anna's saying love Kinsale. Has been years since I've been there. Here's to open pubs and breweries very soon. Yeah, so
here.
We're all looking forward to that. Brian Breen is having a great day by the sounds of it. He's already had 2 of the beers we've had earlier on, so that's fantastic for him.
He's well on his way. He's well on the way.
Yeah, definitely. So plans coming down the line, Darren. What's in the pipeline for Blacks at the moment?
I suppose we will move from where we're brewing and distilling right now. So that's kind of, I suppose, in the plans. I can't really give away too much information about that, but we will move to a new facility. Hopefully, I guess it'll be next year. And so we have a location in mind. Hopefully, if all that works out, it'll be really, really nice. Great for the brand, because we'll have more, I suppose, exposure. Where we are right now is a great place, but we're quite hidden, I suppose, from the traffic and what have you. So that's going to be exciting project. We will have a more, I suppose, extensive tourist element to what we're doing. So there will be more tours, shop, stuff like that. So that's kind of in the next year or two kind of project. Beer wise, yeah, I mean, we're always trying to innovate and always trying to come up with new things and new ideas, and so I suppose we'll definitely keep going on the IPA theme, and you'll see different 440 ml can releases coming out, I suppose, through the summer at least. Anyhow, most recently we did another version of the Ace of Haze. This one was the Battle of the Tropics. That's quite new, just out a couple of weeks. A Mosaic Azaka kind of I suppose battle between the hops, if you like. I was kind of picturing in my mind King Kong versus Godzilla, and the 2 hops going at it, But yeah, so there'll be loads of new nice 440 ml stuff coming out, which is great. Hopefully, the double dry hop Ace of Haze, the original one, which we have in 330 ml can, will be going out in draft as well across the nation. All going well. If I can do my job right and try and sell a load of it. So if you're a fan of the Ace of Haze, that should be available on draft as well, coming soon to a quality craft beer bar near you. All going well. So that's kind of what's going on with beers. That's the distillery brewery move and expansion. That's going to be really exciting for us as well. And I suppose the whiskey making thing is also a huge new arm to the business. I suppose people who are beer lovers can also be whiskey lovers. So I suppose I can chat a little bit about that. I mean, look, we will put a lot of energy into the spirit side of the business and the whiskey business. As I said, we started distilling last year, so there's a whole load of spirit maturing right now in Woods. And we'll have a lot of innovation coming down the line there. We've really tried to, I suppose, stretch it a little bit in what kind of wood we're using for maturation. Combinations, I think I was mentioning yesterday, I mean, combinations between beer and whiskey, what have you, would be a real, I suppose, unique selling point for us. We can finish whiskies in all sorts of beers, whether it's World's End, for example, jumps out. If any of you have tried our Imperial Stout with chocolate vanilla, that would be a really nice one to finish one. Even Black IPA would work really well with whiskey, as well, and. So we'll do a lot of stuff on that side too. So loads of exciting things coming down the line. And yeah, it's a great time to be working at Blacks. I'm really enjoying it. So, no complaints. Yeah, that's what's coming down the line, Brian.
Brilliant. Yeah. The very first Ace of Haze that was included in our virtual beer festival box way back in June last year. And I saw Wayne's ears prick up there as soon as he said it was going to be going into kegs and around, because I think Wayne bought about 7 cases of it after trying it that time.
I apologize for nothing.
Yeah, super beer.
That beer got great reaction, and and it's got better and better. I feel like, I suppose it's Ronan Russell. He really put his heart and soul into that beer. And in fairness, he's really committed to all the beers he makes, but he really put his heart and soul into that. You could see it was like a labor of love for him, and he kept conversations every week were like, it's good, but I want to get it better. I'm going to tweak it up here a little bit. I just want to get that little bit better. And so it was ongoing, constant improvement, which is, I guess, a theme for what we're trying to do with everything. Just get better and better step by step. So that the latest version of the 330ml can, I just had one last night actually before we came on. It's tasting great, tasting really good. Like it's super crushable, super sessionable, and it's trendy. The cloudy beers, this kind of New England style, they're all really in right now. So that's a really good one. I knew Wayne liked it, or he did get past some positive feedback back, which was nice. But in saying that, I think it's also important that from our perspective that we have other styles in the IPA kind of category, because we are a very IPA kind of driven brewery. So we'll have there'll be West Coast style stuff as well, and double IPA as we had last night, whatever, which was great. But geez, I think after I came off the call, I head up to bed and I said to the missus, I'm feeling a bit pissed. I mean, it was good crack. So there'd be all style in the IPA category. We'd be doing a lot of stuff, and yeah, just trying to keep it fun and keep it innovative. I guess that's the thing.
Brilliant, yeah. We still had 2 more beers to go after that as well.
I did stay on, and I had from Ballyclacavin. I stayed, and then I was like, God, okay, I got it. and we have a 6-week-old little girl, so we're still busy with her as well. So had to call it a day after that. But it was great crack, and it's nice to hear good feedback as well on the session today. Different beer, obviously, completely, but it's great to. On the other side of the ABV scale as well, but it's drinking nice.
Yeah, congrats on the new arrival, by the way. That's brilliant. And
thanks a million, man. Yeah, absolutely. First child. We put on long. I'm nearly 42, so we had it on the long finger for quite a while, and I was getting away with murder. And eventually, it was just like, okay, look, do we want to have a family? And so we said, look, we'll give it a try, and luckily, it all worked out. So we're happy days. So we're absolutely delighted. Best thing we ever did, really, and. People always said to me, having kids is the best thing you'll ever do. And I was kind of going, yeah, but geez, I won't be able to go out for pints that I want. And, so you're used to the kind of like freedom, I suppose, of your lifestyle and that. But it's the best thing we ever did. Fantastic. And she's doing really well. So mom and baby are both great. So, and dad is doing okay as well. And I'm getting plenty of sleep. To be honest, I'm grand. Maria's doing all the heavy lifting. So I have to say she's fantastic. And I'm, as usual, getting away with murder. But sure, it's all good.
Nothing new there. So
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, Darren. I'm going to bring Liam in now, but give people a heads up. We're going to be going on to Marooned now any second. Just very, very quickly before we wrap up, we can't not talk about the golden ticket last night. Yes. And the competition itself and Patrick winning it. It was absolutely fantastic to see. So what did Patrick win last night?
Yeah, so he won a year's supply of beer. So we'll send him beer every month now for the next 12 months. And he won a VIP tour of the brewery as well. So we'll have him down once we're allowed post-COVID. We'll have him down, tour him around. We'll share a load of drinks, obviously with him, beers, some whiskey, and we'll give him get the red carpet out, give him the royal treatment. So and he can meet all the team. He can meet Sam, he can meet Ronan, get to know what's going on down in Blacks, and it was great fun giveaway. There were 5 tickets, so one has been won, if you like, now, which is great. So there's still 4 more floating around out there, lads. So keep your eye out. And look, it was a fun competition. We were kind of bantering in Kinsale about who's Willy Wonka and who are the Oompa Loompas. And so I might have to get my green face paint out if Patrick's coming down for a visit. But yeah, it's a bit of crack. It was really good that we had a winner live yesterday on the call, which was because that was added an extra element to it and great fun. So congratulations to Patrick, and 4 more out there, lads. So let's see who wins. It'll be exciting. And look, from the marketing perspective, it's just a little bit of fun and innovation as well from us. And it was great beer. The beer was tasting great as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think Patrick's on this evening as well. So yeah, he's there he is. Yeah, reveling in his glory at the moment. Man, Patrick. Fantastic. Okay.
Cool.
Darren, thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant. To yourself, Sam, the whole team in Blacks, super brewery, and you're doing amazing stuff. Super beers, everything you're doing is excellent. So
thanks, Brian. Really appreciate it. Good to see you, Wayne, as well, man. Haven't seen you in a while, but we'll see you at the next beer festival hopefully again, or if you're not. And thanks to everybody for their interest and listening. It's really great to come on and chat to people who are passionate about beer. So thanks a million, guys, and thanks everyone for your support, because we rely on the support of everyone who's all the passionate beer people out there to keep us going. So I really appreciate all the support. Thanks a million.
Fantastic. Cheers, Darren. Chat to you soon. Okay, Liam. Hello. Are you with us?
I am.
How are you doing?
Sounded like a Ouija board response.
Yeah. It was a less creepy entrance than your one yesterday was.
That wasn't creepy. That was dramatic.
Okay, dramatic. Sorry, less dramatic entrance.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, here we are. It's time for Marooned. If you haven't already grabbed it, give it a pour, give it a taste, and become acquainted with it. While you're doing that, Liam, why don't you introduce yourself and Dead Centre, please?
Again. I'm so sorry, lads. At this stage, you've heard it a billion times. But anyway, my name is Liam. I started Dead Centre Brewing in 2017, originally as a contract brand. So we started to brew with Liam and Owen in St. Mel's. And the beer that we're drinking tonight was the very first beer that we ever brewed. It came from a homebrew recipe, which have been tweaked. I think probably batch 4 or 5, somewhere around there, for the homebrew. Was the one that won the Midlands homebrew competition. We held it in Black Donkey. I know Richard is on here as well. And I'm sure Richard will remember that I won by default because John Fahey actually won, who was employed by Galway Bay at the time, who were one of the sponsors. So technically he couldn't win. So my second place entry became a first place entry. So I was really, really happy with Maroon from them. So that's when we decided to scale it up and start contract brewing with the lads in St. Mel's. Since then, obviously, we've built our own brewery in Athlone. We have a bar, restaurant, and brew pub right on the banks of the Shannon. I have to say, it's a spectacular spot. It's a really cool spot. And since then, we've moved our contract. So we have the brewery in Athlone, which was really intended as it's only a 500 litre kit. We have 4 10-hec fermenters. That brewery was really intended as to produce kegs for the bar. But obviously we got to brewing on it right before lockdown. It took us a long time to commission the kit. We had the kit there for a long time before we actually brewed on it. But obviously lockdown meant the kegs were no use. So we have been canning out of that brewery, which is labour intensive. But a majority of our distribution volume is still produced under contract. At the moment, we contract with 12 Acres in Laois. Paddy down there does a fantastic job for us. And that's pretty much it, I think. Onto Marooned, I suppose, and give a little spiel about Marooned. So, as I said, Marooned started out as a homebrew recipe. We use Kilbeggan organic oats. I brewed it a few times using brewer's oats, and it just felt like it was missing something. So for the last couple of times that I brewed it at home on a 30-litre batch size, I used Kilbeggan Organic. It's a strange beer, to be perfectly honest. I'd like to say Marooned has been all things to all people. I'm not 100% sure about that, but Marooned has definitely been all things. I change this beer constantly. It's to be honest, it's very rarely the same beer twice. I kind of, maybe incorrectly, selfishly, maybe I use it as a kind of a personal sounding board. We had at a point when, soft and juicy was everything. We cut right back on the bittering hop, which is an unusual hop in itself. It's a German hop, Pearl or Perle, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But at one point we had cut that almost back to zero and focused really heavily on the dry hop. But we've changed that around again now, so the bittering hop is more pronounced. The dry hop isn't quite as large. It's still bloody expensive, but it's not quite as large. And it's probably leaning slightly more West Coast than it had been. Well, it's definitely leaning more West Coast than it had been. It's also, you'll notice the clarity is a little bit clearer than Marooned used to be. That's a yeast change. We now use Wicklow Hops Company Lax. We don't. We use Wicklow Hops Company Old English, apologies, as opposed to a Nottingham yeast, which we used in it originally. So there are some things, we call it an American IPA. Obviously, we've got Simcoe and Mosaic in here, which is perfect. But then we have a German bittering hop and an English yeast strain. So it's a kind of a, I don't know, I know we already used the word hybrid tonight. So I'll call this a mongrel instead. It's probably a more apt description.
Amazing, fantastic, yeah, super beer, and like whatever iteration it goes through, it always comes out stunning anyway. So it's brilliant, and it's good to hear you say that. Actually, I thought I was going mad, but it has been changing over the years.
It's always on the change. There's a couple of people on the call I know that are regulars in the brew pub. I think they probably see it change more regularly because we brew for keg. A majority of the keg stock is brewed on site. And when it's on site and it's right there, and you have a harebrained scheme to maybe take some of the Mosaic out and increase the Simcoe, you can just do that, and we do, which is probably not advised for consistency, but at least it's always exciting.
This is it. Never a dull moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Some comments on the beer. So I'll ask people how they're getting on with this, but lovely stuff coming in. Gary's saying very tasty drop, well done, Liam and the team. Babs said that's a stunning beer. Chris is saying his table is booked for the 11th of June. Can't wait to get back into Dead Centre. So
neither can I. We literally moved. We have been operating Beer Cloud out of Dead Centre, so we moved 41,700 cans out of the pub yesterday. So it's back looking like a pub, which is good. I find if you're running a pub, it should probably look like a pub.
Yeah, I think so. Brian saying tasting very fresh. Yeah, it's super feedback coming in here. We know it's a Savage beer, but yeah, we're just confirming. We're just sorry on the freshness. I'm actually not sure. I'm drinking you can see my lovely can artwork here. I'm drinking one from that we pulled off the tank in work actually, but because our volumes have increased in the off trade and we're doing more cans, we find that somebody will be able to check the best before, but that will be a fresh batch. We have another fresh batch coming in on Monday from 12 Acres as well. They canned on Friday, so it's great to be getting the beers out that quickly. Means that the beer is generally fresher when you get it. We used to, because we were so focused on the pub and on getting stock out through keg. It was definitely there, so 14 to 4, so it's less than a month old, Yeah. But yeah, when we were focusing on keg and getting the stock out through keg, the cans tended to not move as quickly because we didn't really distribute. We had no need to distribute because the volume was so good at the bar. But obviously lockdown has changed that, so we push a lot of beer out now, and have Brian working for us on the road, who is absolutely killing it for us, thankfully. So the batches are more frequent, higher volume. It's good for everybody. Amazing, yeah. And the can that you're having, is that straight out of the fermenter?
Available now, beercloud.ie.
You're
Yes,
welcome
it's-
for that one.
Good shout, by the way. I like where you're at.
Yeah, so Wayne, how are you getting on with the beer? I see you supping away there.
Yeah, really enjoying it. I've always liked marooned, and like you, I kind of thought it's slightly different this time before. So again, glad to know I'm not going nuts. Liam, just want to say happy wedding anniversary. I'm surprised Amy is letting you on this tonight.
This sounds really bad, but Amy is staying with her parents tonight.
Oh,
Amy knew that I had. That's not a marriage in trouble, by the way. Amy knew that I had the beer cloud move, so I had to move all those cans yesterday. I had to organise them in the new premises today, and I had a tasting last night and a tasting tonight. So because intercounty restrictions have lifted, she's gone to see her parents in Waterford. So it's a remote anniversary.
You're spending it with us though. That's nice.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, romantic.
Oh, we lost you. Oh, you're back.
Did I just jump out there? Did I? That was my iPad giving me a low battery warning, but I'm okay. I'm at 20%, so hopefully I'll be all right.
Okay, yeah, you're absolutely fine. Yeah, so Justin saying, yeah, definitely West Coast styles. Tea, caramel, bitter, hoppy, grapefruit, delish.
Yeah, I get the tea. I think it's definitely more tannic than it used to be. And for me as well, I think that now that we've ramped up the bitter and hop again, sorry, everybody in work tells me I'm crazy, and it's probably because this is one of the beers that I do still have my finger in the pie with regularly. Everything else I leave to Roger because he knows what I'm doing, but I'll regularly say, let's change this, let's change that with maroon. I get a kind of a spicy or a floral kind of a note from I think it's from the pearl, from the bittering. I think there's maybe a slight kind of peppery touch to it. Again, the guys in work completely disagree, but to my palate, I still get it.
I'm kind of getting that. It's not quite rye spice, but it's a little bit tingly in there.
That's what I think too. Maybe I don't know. It's a tricky one to put your finger on, but I think there's something there, and I think it's the more we increase the bittering hop, the more that seems prevalent. So I think it's the pearl. I think anyway, because in fairness, we've changed up the yeast, but the WHC yeasts they're really good yeasts. It's great to be able to use Irish yeast as well, by the way, just as a side note. But they're really good yeasts. They're clean. And we've used that yeast in a couple of other beers as well, where you don't get that. Because if I change the yeast and I started to get that, I definitely put it down to the yeast. But we've used that same yeast in other beers where we don't get that kind of peppery note, or that I don't get that peppery note. So I definitely think it's pearl related, I think.
Okay, brilliant. It's great to hear that as well with the Wicklow Hops Company. We've had a good few brewers on saying that they're using their yeast and they're getting stunning results with them. So that's brilliant to hear.
Yeah, I think pretty much. I think pretty much everything is on. I'm not sure about Dead Pixels. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what we're using in that at the moment, to be perfectly honest with you. But I know that Seeking Sunshine is on their lax yeast. Across the Pond is on their lax yeast. This is on their Old English, and Teeny Tiny is on their Einstein yeast strain. So it's great to be able to use Irish yeast. And it performs. To be honest with you, if we used it and it didn't work, it's great to be able to use Irish, but it has to do what it needs to do. But it does both. It ticks both boxes, so it's performing really well. Philip's doing a great job up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Great comments coming in. Kelvin is saying he can't believe he's never made it into, but that's going to be rectified soon now next time he visits that loan. Anna's saying, I love the idea that you changed the recipe. That's what makes it actually more special. And Paul, this has been my all-time fave Irish beer. Totally unique. Please, more distribution in Dublin. We're trying.
As I said, Brian is on the road, and he's some of you might know Brian Moogan as he was a former CNR rep, and then moved on to Alltech. So he worked with ABDI. He distributed Fox's Rock around the country, and he joined us about 6 weeks ago, and it's been a sea change. So definitely already we have increased volume in Dublin, but he's really pushing as well. So fingers crossed we'll see more of that.
Brilliant. And good man, Richard. Richard is saying, if you found any Augustus scoop while clearing out the bar, I'd happily take them off your hands.
You found one.
Did you actually?
Yeah. I'm not getting rid of it though. That's mine. I'll hang on to that. Although I do think it will be. We'll talk offline. We'll take the conversation offline. I still think it'll be a great barrel beer. I think it's something we should rebrew a barrel. But it's it again. Sorry, not everybody might know what Augustus Scoop is. No. It was a collaboration between Dead Centre and Brian from Crack for one of the calls. When was it? It was
January.
Yeah,
it's a January one. That's when you want to be drinking an Imperial Brown Ale.
Yeah. Now you're going to kick off the brown ale talk, I suppose, because we've mentioned it now. But these things generally devolve into a mess of we want more brown ales. So we did an Imperial Brown Ale on vanilla called Augusta Scoop, and it was really good. Really, I was very, very happy with that beer. So I think it's something that probably doesn't deserve to be lost to the archives, to be honest. I love this whole we're making a one-off special, and then when you realise it's popular, it's no longer a one-off. But we're devils for that.
It becomes a seasonal then.
Well, yeah, one of those year-round seasonals.
Yeah. I can't believe we got this far without the brown ale chat kicking off. What'll be an hour and 20 minutes in, and
I'm assuming it's kicked off now, though.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah. And calling that a collaboration is very, very generous. I think it was a collaboration between you and Roger. I'd say I was present.
I had nothing to do with it. Brian sent the recipe, and Roger. But that's the same thing that Roger did with. So I brewed Seeking Sunshine at home as an IPA, and I gave it to the lads in Mel's, and we scaled it up. And when Roger came in to brew it on our own kit, he kind of looked at the recipe and went, "Look, it's grand, I'll brew it, but scribble, scribble, scribble. Here's what you should have done." It was kind of a bullseye, that here's what you could have won. So in fairness to him, he brewed it. He brewed it and we released it as silhouettes. It's the same grain bill, similar grain bill, similar hops. Well, exactly the same hops, but similar hop additions, kind of time-wise and volume. But it's a completely different beer, and in my eyes, it's a better beer, to be honest. So, when it comes to recipe formulation, I leave Roger do his thing because I tend to get in the way.
Fair enough. So yeah, one eye on the clock here. We're gonna move over to Libby and Kinnegar shortly and crack open our rust bucket. Before we do so, you're saying so Beer Cloud has moved out of Dead Centre. Then you have a free space there. Are you gone into the big warehouse with it?
We've moved it out to the big warehouse because it came down to the wire. Actually, we had to. The solicitor. It's a very strange legal situation in that Beer Cloud doesn't hold a license. Dead Centre holds a license, and it's against the premises. So the solicitor had to do his magic, basically to set up a satellite for us. But that's taken care of now, so we can do what we need to do without getting cuffs put on us, which is important. But the warehouse obviously is where we hope to put brewery number 2. The guys in Blacks are being the most patient people in the country at the moment. So thanks a million to everyone down there. We're sourcing our second brew house from Blacks, but since the pandemic, everything has just slowed down. So it's been tricky to move ahead with that, but everything is on track. Hopefully, we were refused planning initially. We submitted our further information and we're due a planning decision on the 27th. So hopefully this time next week we'll be smiling. Fingers crossed.
Amazing. Brilliant to hear. What size is the brew house?
You know what? Darren might be better equipped to answer than I am. It's a 2,000 litre brew house. It's the old Blacks kit. As Darren said, they've moved on to a new kit which services both the brewery and the distillery. A spectacular kit. Ronan holidayed in Athlone last year while in the window where holidays were possible. And he called in and we caught up and he was showing me some of the pictures and videos from the new brew house, and it's spectacular. But the old brew house is what we're hoping to take up into Athlone. So 2,000 litre kit, 3-vessel brewery, conical FEs, bright tank. It did everything that Blacks have done up until whatever a year and a half ago. So we know that it can churn out good beer and good volume, which is the important thing. The brewery we have at the minute just it's not going to be able to keep up with the volumes that we're contracting. It makes sense when we're contracting those kind of volumes to take it in house.
Yeah, sure, brilliant. Well, best of luck with it anyway. Everyone has their fingers crossed here, that it all goes through okay. I can see Chris saying it there. Fingers crossed for the planning. Yeah, crazy that was turned in the first time. So yeah, hopefully all good there. Liam, well, just a final few comments. Brian say more brown ale. Richard saying his cask is the new brown ale. We've had an outrageous amount of cask chat from
cask is the new brown.
Yeah,
that's what I've discovered over the last 2 nights. And we have, oddly enough, lying horizontally under our coffee machine in dead center, we have a cask engine, but no casks. So I don't know. Maybe it's something that's coming.
Yeah, soon. And yeah, lots of love for Augusta Scoop as well. Liam, pleasure as always. Fantastic chatting. Thank you so much. Just, I suppose, on behalf of everyone, I'll say the ICBI, all the brewers, everyone here this evening. Thank you so much for beer clouding in general, setting up, facilitating, sending so many beers out across the country, but being able to get the beers to us here for this event to our Indie Beer Week. Yourself and the team there have done an absolutely unbelievable job. So thank you so much.
No worries. And look, again, Kinnegar and Amy in the background. Look, when you send out that number of beer boxes simultaneously, it's never going to be flawless. So we did have a couple of issues, and the guys really tackled it really well. So they did a super job. Working very hard. We appreciate it. So thanks to those guys too.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thanks, Emil. Thanks again, Liam.
No worries.
Okay, so folks, we are going to go up to Donegal and have a chat to Libby. Just before we do, I have a couple of quick announcements, I guess. First of all, in about 40 minutes, we're going to start into our first dark beers of the evening. So we've got a red ale and a porter. It depends on personal preference now, but it might be a nice time to take them out of the fridge now if you do have them in the fridge. Just let them come up to room temp a little bit before we try them. And the second one is that Richard unfortunately had a kind of a pressing engagement. He wasn't able to join us this evening. So what we're going to do is Libby's going to have a chat about Kinnegar first. We're going to taste Rust Bucket, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time. Libby's going to take us through an overview of Black Donkey as well and have a taste of Saison, Sheep Stealer. And then we have some special guests as well joining us. We have Jono from Crew Brewing in Limerick. So they're going to join us and give us a quick overview of what Crew are up to and how they've been faring, opening up in the midst of a pandemic. And they're nearly at the other side by the looks of it now, which is great. So that's our schedule for the next 40 odd minutes or so. Libby, hello.
Hello, Brian. Hello, everyone.
How are you?
Hello, Libby.
Not bad, thanks. I've actually started with Sheep Stealer, oddly enough. But I'll crack open my Rust Bucket now straight away. We'll start with Rust Bucket?
Yeah, we'll go Rust. Yep. We'll go Rust Bucket first. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Sounds
and
good.
I know everyone else
great stuff.
has a can, but I'm going to open my bottle.
Nice. Lovely. Libby, mine's in the fridge. It's about 1 yard away from me, so I'll be 2 seconds grabbing it. While I'm doing that, why don't you say a quick hello, introduce yourself, and tell us a bit about Kinnegar.
Yep, no problem. We're in Donegal. I'm sitting right now in the building that Kinnegar actually started in, so it's in the phase that we call pre-K. We've had 3 breweries, so the initial research and development phase started in this building about 10 years ago, and we developed our first 4 beers here before moving to a more commercial scale about 150 meters up the lane. And then in 2017, after 4 years in our original proper brewery, we moved to Letterkenny to K2, which is our current brewery. But Rust Bucket is one of our first 4 beers that was developed in this building. And it was our first adventure with rye. And I suppose rye has become synonymous with Kinnegar. But Rust Bucket was the first one. And I can remember quite well. Funny, I was thinking about it in advance of this session when I was out with the dogs a little bit earlier this evening. And I remember something that none of you would thank me for probably when we made the very first batch. It wasn't dry hopped. In the chronology of our beers is Limeburner was first, then Devil's Backbone, the amber, then Scraggy Bay. So that Scraggy was our first dry hopped beer. And then came Rust Bucket, our rye ale. And I remember quite distinctly a conversation with Rick where he said, I think I'm going to dry hop it. And I said, no, let's not dry hop it. Let's just see what it's like without dry hopping it first. So the very first batch of Rust Bucket wasn't dry hopped. And that's the batch that we put in a polypin and delivered one evening to the Bull and Castle for some little festival or event that was going on there. And that was the first public serving of Rust Bucket. And it would have been in February or March 2013. And I can always remember exactly when we made Rust Bucket because Rusty, our Irish Terrier that it's called after, he died in February 2013. So we named the beer after him. So it's very easy to identify when it was first made and then first poured in the Bull and Castle.
Lovely. It's an absolutely gorgeous beer. It's one I always have in the fridge, one I always go to. It's hard to pick a favorite in the Kinnegar range, but I think it is my favorite. It's always on hand. I'll ask people how they're getting on with it in the comments. Pop in there. How are you enjoying it at the moment? I thought it was particularly nice actually that the last time we were chatting, Libby, yourself and Rachel were on, and we had Shuttle Bucket and we had Bucket and Spade. So now we've rounded out the trilogy. We've got the one in the middle of the two.
That's right. And I mean, for any of you who aren't familiar with the naming system in the brewery, any of our beers that have the word bucket in the name have rye in them. There is one small anomaly. Swingletree, our Saison, actually has a little bit of rye in it, and it doesn't have bucket in the name, but that's because we don't consider it a rye beer as such, whereas all the ones that we consider rye beers have bucket in the name. So Bucket and Spade is our session rye IPA, and Shuttle Bucket, obviously the complete opposite end of the spectrum, around 8% double rye IPA. But Rust Bucket was the starting point, and initially we called it a rye ale. Over I think about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we changed it and we called it a rye IPA because we felt that. I think ale is still, it's a difficult term in the Irish beer drinking context. I think amongst people who really care about beer, and I imagine everyone sitting in on this Indie Beer Week session belongs to that cohort, ale is appreciated. But for an awful lot of people, ale is flat, watery English beer. So Rust Bucket is an IPA, like it's quite strongly dry hopped, and it's it's got a good hop character. So we found that in the Irish market that it was definitely advantageous to call it an IPA. But it was funny because when we export quite a lot of Rust Bucket to France, and I was in Paris meeting our distributor. It was part of a Board Bia expedition. And I just happened to mention that we were changing the name to a rye IPA. And he said, oh, no. And for him, the problem was that there are just so many IPAs available, whereas there are very few ales, and there's certainly no rye ale. So for him, it was something that the fact that Rust Bucket was a rye ale and not an IPA was a real selling point. So obviously it's exactly the same beer. It's a matter of description and where do you draw the line? Like when does something become an IPA?
Sure. Yeah. You wouldn't be the first brewer here to say that as well, that as soon as they change it, put IPA on the can instead of ale or something like that, then just the sales just rocket, or the demand rockets for it. It just seems to be where the market is at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we opened up Indie Beer Week with Rick when we were chatting about the DL Lager, and I asked him about the inception of Kinnegar and where it came from, and he kind of had a little bit of a laugh about it and said that there's conflicting opinions on that between yourself and himself. So I'd love to hear your side of the story for this one.
Well, I actually have I can't say it's a physical record, it's a digital record of the first time that Kinnegar was sold and served publicly. And again, I suppose we're a little bit different to most breweries. So Claire from Dungarvan was on Thursday evening as well, and she was explaining how, unlike most Irish breweries, Dungarvan started with bottled beer and only moved to keg a little bit later. We were the same. Like we didn't until we built our proper brewery. Everything that we did was bottled and bottle conditioned, like Dungarvan. So in October, around October the 20-something of 2011, we had an event in Rathmullen House. So it's the hotel. It's about a kilometre from where I'm sitting. Really great place. And they've always been incredibly supportive of local producers and everything local. So Mark and Mary Wheeler, who own it, they were just interested in what we were doing. And this was really very, very, very early on. So in October 2011, in their cellar bar, which later became the tap room that we ran together with them, there was a Sunday lunch event, and Lime Burner and Devil's Backbone were sold at that. It was so I actually have the Facebook post from that date of when they were first board, and it's remarkable because, like, I suppose because I'm the graphic designer behind it, I'm happy to say that you would recognize the bottle immediately. Like, our very, very little has changed. It's a different bottle, but the label design is still practically identical. So that is officially the first record of when it was served, and that was October 2011. So in my opinion, we're 10 years old in October.
Okay, brilliant. That's amazing. Yeah, there's so many fantastic breweries coming up to their decade. Metalman earlier. I know Dungarvan already have celebrated it, and yourself. So it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant to see. Just to jump to some comments here, Libby, just to catch up. People absolutely loving Rust Bucket. No shocker there. Seamus says, love Rust Bucket, my go-to beer always. Having it off the shelf tonight. Class stuff as always, says Brendan. It's my most consumed beer by quite a distance. Brian was asking, so rye is a great addition to beers, but why do you use it so much in your beers, or why do you love rye?
Just like the character of it. It has a kind of a spiciness that just lends a particular edge to a beer, and as long as it's backed up with, as long as it's balanced, it's really quite a nice characteristic. And I think myself and Rick lived in Germany for a good few years, and rye is very popular there. Not necessarily in beers, or at least the two of us wouldn't have experienced that much rye beer in Germany. But there's a lot of rye bread, and it's a fairly common ingredient there, whereas it's not in Ireland. And I think our familiarity with it probably contributed to the fact that Rick was curious to use it in beer. And we liked the first result with Rust Bucket, and then it went from there. I was chuckling listening to Liam talking about making a once-off beer and realizing you like it, and then suddenly you're making it again and again. I think that's why we ended up with so many buckets in our repertoire, because we just kept making once-off rye beers and liked them.
Yeah, fantastic. Just so Richard has preempted my next question here. I was going to ask it slightly differently. I was going to ask how do you decide who draws a short straw when it comes to brewing the rye beers? But Richard has asked, I've heard that rye isn't easy to brew with. Is that true, and why?
It's very definitely true. The main reason for it is that I actually should have, I think even in this context, I could have shown them. But if you're familiar with the different grains that brewers brew with, obviously barley is the most frequently used, and it has a really good husk. And in the brewing process, obviously that husk works as roughage and as a filtration material. So when you've got your grain bed, it's allowing, it's keeping a certain looseness, a fibrousness in your grain bed. So your runoff works fairly well. With rye, it has no husk. So when you mill it, you basically end up with just flour. And that means that your grain bed will very quickly become compacted. So you can end up with two results. Either your runoff is far too fast and you're going, oh, this is great, but I'm a bit suspicious. And that's because the wort has found it's basically made a channel through the concrete. So it's flowing through nice and quickly, but you're not getting the extract that you need. But the more normal situation is it's going incredibly slowly, and that's because you have this very, very, very compact, solid grain bed, and it's just unbelievably slow to get the wort through it. So there are different things that you can try. And funny, I had a chat with Grania from Metalman a couple of nights ago about this. You can add oat husks or rice husks. Can't remember what the byproduct of rice is. We tried oat husks for a while, and I think initially the brewers thought, yes, it helps. And then, funnily enough, when the big bag of oat husks ran out, we didn't bother replacing them because it just didn't make that much of a difference. So we just basically we grit our teeth and get on with it. But it is very definitely the case when myself and Rachel and Sean are having what we call our production meat sales meeting every week. There's kind of a standing joke that if the brewers are being bad, then we'll have a double batch of rust bucket on a Friday. They'll be there for quite a while. So if they decide that they're going to be nice to us, then maybe we will reschedule it and not have it on a Friday. And it was, of course, in here in Rathmullen in K1. It was the one where famously, our brew length was longer here. So normally we were brewing 9 times a week here and over 5 days. So Rachel generally would come in at about 4 o'clock to start the first brew, and David and Kevin would be taking over at around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And twice in our 4 years in Rathmullen, Rachel turned up at 4 o'clock for her first brew and found that David or Kevin was still there finishing the second batch of rust bucket from the previous day, because that was really, really long rye brew. Lovely.
Absolutely lovely. So just jump back to comments here. Yeah, super feedback coming in for Rust Bucket and Kinnegar in general. Loads of lovely comments. I definitely encourage you to have a scan back up through them when we're finished up chatting. Wayne, how are you getting on over there?
I absolutely love Rust Bucket. Like, I'm just echoing what a lot of people here. Like, Kinnegar, are always in my fridge. It's usually Scraggy or Rust Bucket, and they are just eminently drinkable beers. And I just love the rye spice. I just can't get enough of it, really.
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So I'm looking at the time. I'm thinking just before we move on to our Black Donkey Saison sheep stealer. Richard said, I heard whispers about a cool ship landing in Rathmullen.
The cool ship has landed. I think it landed in January, and we had great fun putting it in. And unfortunately, the timing has just been difficult. So we got to the point where we made, so the plan is that the wort is going to be made in K2 in Letterkenny, and then it'll be brought out here to K1, and they will be fermented and conditioned out here. So the cool ship is in, and all our little tanks are back out here, and we have these really cute little kind of Sputnik looking tanks that are for our bug propagation and bug homes. So we did our first couple of we did a dry run first to see that our gravity feeding system that we had conceived, so the beer, the wort comes from Letterkenny on a flatbed trailer, out to Rathmullen, and then we hook it up, and we, just using a gravity feed, we transfer it into the little tanks out here. So that worked, and the first thing that we did was we sent out basically what was a big feed for our three different bug strains, and filled up our little tanks and left them. Two of them worked. One of them, the bugs died. We're not quite sure why. So two of them were living away happily and healthily. But meanwhile, of course, in K2, everything got so busy, I think probably because coming into Easter and, just general getting busier. And we got tied up with that and weren't able to make any use of what we'd done in K1. So it's stalled, but it's going to happen. So it's just a question of manpower, and hopefully we'll have some results. I hope within the next 2 or 3 months. I know that Rick has some nice ideas with rhubarb juice that Olin at Dan Kelly Cider I was very delighted to get a text message from a couple of days ago saying, Libby, you can have your rhubarb juice collected on Monday. So we'll be making a big batch of Walla Walla, and then a couple of little batches of, I'm not sure exactly what Rick's planning, but it'll be pretty good.
Something funky.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. On something funky there's a final question from Brian just asking, what's the difference between K1 and K2?
Different location, different size. So K1 was our first commercial scale brewery, and we had a 10. So it's on it's basically in my parents' backyard. So it was a little building that we built. It was probably the first custom built brewery in Ireland for about 100 years. We actually built a building, and our first brew house was a 10 hectoliter brew house, and we spent 4 years there. We ended up making about 9,000 liters of beer a week out of the little place, which was pretty phenomenal. What was really good was when we moved to Letterkenny and essentially set up a completely new brewery, which we called K2. So we called it K2 as in Kinnegar II. And in retrospect, Rathmullen became known as K1. So it wasn't known as K1 from the outset. But what was really lucky was that it was a great privilege, really. We didn't have to sell our 10 hectoliter brew house in order to set up K2. So our current main kit is 35 hectoliter brew house. And we didn't have to sell the old brew house. And after about 2 years, we managed to recommission the 10 hectoliter brew house in Letterkenny. So we now have both brew houses, and we use the 10 hectoliter kit for all the Brewers at Play series. So it allows us just to have a lot more fun. It's not as big a commitment when you have 1,000 liters of beer. And it'll be the 10 hectoliter brew house that's feeding K1. Like when we'll be sending 10 hectoliter batches back out here. And that's what'll be developed in the Funk Farm.
Brilliant. Libby, thanks a million. That was absolutely brilliant. Fantastic overview of Kinnegar. Rust Bucket's tasting absolutely spectacular. But now it's time. I'm going to ask you to morph into Richard, if possible, in some fashion. Channel your inner Richard.
The similarities between myself and Richard are enormous, so it's not at all. Slight difference in scale, but otherwise, and let me get my beard out of the.
Extra points for the accent.
Yeah. It's actually really nice to be able to talk about Richard and Black Donkey, because we've been to visit there, and what's interesting is that Richard's setup is extremely similar to our original setup here in K1. So I suppose if I could name an obvious difference, at the moment in Letterkenny we use unitanks, whereas in Rathmullen what we did was we did the primary fermentation in fermenters, so for about 4 or 5 days, and then we transferred our beer into single skin conditioning tanks in a cold room, so the ambient temperature was controlled, and that's exactly the setup that Richard has in Roscommon. So his is the only brewery that I've been in that I can say, oh, that's actually, I recognize that. That's what I know. And again, he's bottle and keg conditioning. He's naturally carbonating his beers. But what's remarkable about him is that he had the courage right from the outset to say, I'm going to make a Saison my core beer. So it's such a distinctive beer style, and it's as most of you probably know, it's the yeast that gives it its character. So it's very spicy in a different way to a rye spice, but almost a little bit of clove, but a really lovely fruity, spicy yeast character, really distinctive. And it's a Belgian style that was really popular for the farm workers. But it was incredibly courageous and typical of Richard too. Like Richard has the personality to make this kind of thing work. But I know that he uses Belle Saison for sheep stealer, and he said to me a couple of times, I would be happy to brew just with Belle Saison and nothing else. So he's developed a brewery with a very distinctive character, probably to match his own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a perfect fit. Yeah. Definitely. Brian has asked the question here. I've heard Richard speak on this before. Why use the term farmhouse ale over Saison? I haven't asked Richard that myself specifically, but I would guess it's because farmhouse ale is something that plain ordinary Irish people can kind of, you actually have a mental picture of what it might be, whereas Saison is a more sophisticated descriptor. And even just in terms of pronouncing it, I think it's probably intimidating for some people. So I would guess it's for that reason. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. I've heard, from what I've heard him say in the past, it's when he said he was opening up a brewery in 2014, and his first beer was going to be a Saison. He said he was laughed out of most places, So he put Irish farmhouse ale on it, and it worked. It sold. Probably similar to like what we were saying earlier, putting IPA onto something, and it'll just sell because people know what it is, or that's what they can make the connection in their brain of what it is. Yeah.
It's amazing the difference, what a simple little thing like that with the name, what the difference it can make. And I know that Richard, like one of his other lovely beers was called Scythe. And he had a real problem because people couldn't pronounce Scythe. And I think he's ended up renaming it. It's not coming to mind right now what it's called, but it's basically the same beer with a slightly different name, which still has that lovely kind of summery, grassy, the same connotations, but it's just easier for someone to it's less intimidating.
Yeah, I remember meeting Richard in 2014, not long after they'd probably packaged the first bottles of it, and it just blew my mind that there was an Irish brewery leading with a Saison. I love Saisons. Janice hates Saisons, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I love Saisons, and I've always admired Richard for Sheep Stealer, because it's just a beer that it delivers everything it says it's going to deliver, and to build a brewery on the back of that beer is actually testament to the quality of Sheep Stealer in itself. And I love it, and I don't see it around often enough locally to where I am, but it's again, I'm really enjoying it tonight. Janice is like, no, get away from me, but I'm like, no, give me that, that's fine, I'll drink that myself.
Super stuff. Comments coming in are lovely as well. Richard saying this is one of the best Irish Saisons. Chris saying Sheep Stealer is one of my first craft beers and remains one of my favorite and go-to beers. And like for people who frequent these events, there's usually a bit of a pattern or a style that I kind of usually go for, and try and pop in something like a Saison or a sour around the middle of these tastings, because brilliant beers for kind of, I suppose, somewhat refreshing your palate as well, and kind of cleansing a bit. So it's lovely time, I think, to have something like this now. Beautiful beer. And Brian has just said there, the cave yeast beers were great. So did he go off and harvested his own yeast from caves in Roscommon or something? The lunatic.
Right. Yeah, I think he's trying to propagate his own yeast strain. It's one of the things that's really interesting, I think, in Irish brewing, is that so few of our biggest raw material is Irish, because we like water, obviously is Irish, but you know, we can use a lot of Irish malt. It's difficult to get Irish specialty malts, and obviously hops aren't really feasible in Ireland for the style of beers that people like drinking these days. But the one thing that I think there's huge room for exploration with is yeast, and fair dues to Richard for, you know, actually, I think he got a science student involved. I can't remember from which university, and they went off and went caving and pulled out yeast strain. And actually, you can obviously get yeast from pretty much anything, but to get a yeast strain that's actually going to produce a beer that tastes good is, you know, it's partly luck, but also the bit of skill involved. And I think he's had great success, you know, and it's been. I think, you know, he's just enjoyed the beer a lot, but it's also been, you know, it's been commercially successful for him, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's a really indigenous Roscommon beer. I mean, it's a lovely concept.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic, and tasting as good as ever. Yeah. I'm thinking we might bring Jono in for a quick chat. But before we do, I just want to say, Libby, thank you so much for first of all, a fantastic Kinnegar introduction tasting of Rust Bucket, and also for last minute stepping in to have a chat about Richard and the saison as well. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Brilliant, and yeah, thanks again. Well, hopefully we'll chat soon.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jono, hello. Are you with us?
On mute. That's what I have to click. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks. How are you?
Good. It's great to sit and listen to Libby talk about Kinnegar, and I'm drinking Thumper, so it's good times.
Oh, fantastic! Right, you're in good form, so.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So, Jono, I suppose we don't have too much time now to have a chat, but it's great. Again, Jono literally got a call up about 2 hours before we went live, asking, do you want to jump on for a quick chat? So thank you so much for jumping on short notice. Tell us a bit about yourself, and then Crew Brewing Company as well in Limerick.
So yeah, we opened a pub and a brewery in Limerick during the pandemic. Sort of opened. We were open for 11 days for indoor service, and then we did a bit of outdoor service before we were closed down again. We're right in the city centre of Limerick, brewing on site, and then we have a full pub license as well. So we have 5 rotating guest taps, bottles and cans, spirits, all the rest of it. And it's all Irish independent. The spirits are, and all the beer and cider is as well. So everything we have is basically everything that everybody loves here, I imagine, which is like an absolute pleasure. This week we were brewing to get ready to open, but we've also been drinking a lot of beer because we're only stocking stuff that we enjoy and that we've drank. So we've been kind of working through a lot of things, and it's just been, it's amazing. Like, it's an absolute dream come true in an unusual circumstance for us.
Yeah, love it. Fantastic business strategy. I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're brewing at the moment. So what do you got going on? What are we going to be able to enjoy from Crew?
So for opening, we'll have like a tropical IPA. We have a German wheat beer. We have a raspberry hibiscus sour, and we have an American pale ale. And then I'm brewing just before we open. So we have 4 unit tanks and 4 serving tanks. So we'll get everything over to the serving tanks, and then I'm just back getting ready to refill the serving tanks. So there'll be a milk stout, lemon verbena goza, a Berliner Weiss, and I don't know, a load of other stuff. Vanilla espresso porter, which we did the first time, which everybody enjoyed. So we're just we're going through a lot of stuff and seeing what people enjoy and seeing what works well down there, and just kind of enjoying it ourselves as well. And we're able to buy in beer from all the other great Irish producers, so we can kind of fill in any gaps that from the beer, like alongside what we have. So we have a pretty good situation to just be able to try whatever we want really in the brewery, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. I can see Brian there saying, wow, that's some range. It sounds incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's a bit daunting, like just straight from opening. We've kind of had everything. We've had 2 IPAs, and but apart from that, like we've just kind of gone all over the place. We just sit around and talk and see what we'd like to be drinking ourselves, and then go from there. I kind of feel like if we're enjoying drinking them, other people are going to come and enjoy drinking them.
Brilliant. So, I guess what's the plan for reopening then? Like, I know that there's a bit of a guideline, I guess, in terms of outdoor dining, but what's coming down the line for you?
So we'll just do whatever we're allowed, basically, which is sort of unclear at the moment. But for outdoors, it'll be from June 7th. So we have a crowler machine. So we're going to be crowlering takeaways. And then we also have about 25 seats outside, which we kind of hastily put together. But we've got a really nice setup, kind of gazebos, heaters, everything. The building next to us is currently not in use, and it's owned by council. So they said we can just run tables all the way down in front of that, so which is great help. And then we'll see. We'll get people indoors whenever we get them. But we're going to be telling everyone who comes at least go into the bathroom once, because you need to see all the brewery. We spent enough money on the inside. We need people to be going in and seeing all the shiny tanks and all the rest of it. But we have, especially for Ireland, I think we have quite a unique setup, because we have the 4 serving tanks. Like they're literally mounted behind the bar, and there's faucets running straight off the front of them. So it doesn't get much fresher. Like anyone here who's been on a brewery tour and has drank a beer direct from a bright beer tank or anything like that knows how kind of special it is to get the tank fresh beer. So we just wanted to bring that like into the city centre and make it very accessible for people to get into beer. You know, people who aren't necessarily craft beer drinkers already call in because a new place has opened, and we're able to help them. We have a whole team of people who really like every day thinking about beer and talking about beer and all the rest of it. We're all absolutely obsessed. So everyone's just super excited to get back to recommending beers and telling them about the other breweries around the country, and as well as sharing our own stuff, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we were chatting around September time. I think you jumped on for one of the festivals just after Steve from Treaty. It's great to see kind of Limerick is turned into a bit of a beer hub there with yourselves there, Steve and Treaty, and Mother Mac's fantastic bar, fantastic pub as well. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, like we'd never been to Limerick before we decided to open here, and we kind of fell in love with drinking in Mother Mac's. So I think it's an amazing city to drink beer in, and I think it's only going to get better because there is a lot of support, even in like how there's craft beer pubs in a lot of Irish cities, but then if you go to any other pub, there's basically no options for you. It's all Heineken Diageo. But in Limerick, nearly everyone carries at least Treaty Cities beer and maybe a couple of others. So even if you go and drinking with friends who aren't kind of so much into the craft beer scene, you'll nearly always get a pint of Treaty City or another nice, lovely craft beer in a bottle or a can. So like, I think this is, I don't know, I think this is the best city to drink in Ireland. Like we've done a fair bit of it before we were able to get open, and it's hopefully now even better now that we're here. Like,
so just have to ask, you're taking it like Wayne here. Nice to meet you, Jono. I just have to ask, you guys obviously are extremely passionate about good beer and supporting Irish independent breweries, which is great. But what inspired you to open the way you're opening, like serving direct from the tank is like brew pubs in themselves are quite rare here. Obviously Cork has the monopoly, we've already covered that. But What inspired you? Because I know I've been in Howling Hops in London and they serve direct from tank. Is it that kind of is it that kind of inspiration you got, or from US or even further afield?
Yeah, so I was working in breweries in Canada for a good while before I came back home to Ireland. So I like the tap room kind of experience came from there. And it's a real difficult one here with licensing and all the rest of it. So it is a big challenge. I can see why nobody does it. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of confusion. Like we have the brewery company and the pub company have to be separate. And there's a lot of kind of work around that licensing wise and all the rest of it. So they don't make it easy here for sure. But like for me, that's where I fell in love with it. I had already moved to Canada and I went and drank in a few different breweries in the tap rooms. And I said, right, I want to work in one of these places. So that's how it started for me. And then I was working and then studying and then working again and all the rest of it. But I think you're never going to see this huge push that all of us want in terms of volume of craft beer being drank that everybody in Ireland, like who is into the scene wants. You're never going to see that until you have more of these accessible places, because that's where people fall in love with them, you know?
Yeah, I agree totally. And obviously Liam has spoken earlier, and he's undoubtedly told the story a million times about the red tape that they had to experience. But I think it's an amazing opportunity to bring people on that journey. The beer is made 10 feet from where you're sitting.
Yeah.
You know, and you're brewing beers all the time.
People feel more comfortable asking questions, because it's not like being in a craft beer bar where you don't know necessarily if the staff are as into it as you might be when you're asked, but you know, when you're there, there's a certain legitimacy to it. You know, you're surrounded by these tanks who, like, I'm there all the time, so they can chat to me. Anybody who wants to talk about our beer, anyone who talks about anybody else's beer that we carry, like I say, we've drank all of it. We've talked to every brewer we stock. We've talked to them about what their story is and what they would like to have conveyed to people. And it's just like it's a really welcoming, like, there can be a bit of an issue, I think, online sometimes with the craft beer thing, where it can be not super welcoming to new people. But to have more and more of these tap rooms where it's come in, it's not that much different from a pub you've drank in a million times before, but we've got a few kind of weird things going on. There's tanks everywhere, and there's like me looking stressed all the time and covered in grain and all the rest of it. So you're more likely to kind of spark up a conversation that way. And even in the sort of 11 days we were open for indoors and then open for outdoors and the takeaways and all, we did get a lot of people who kind of came because it was a new place, came because they saw about us online, and hadn't really drank a lot of craft beer before. And that was kind of the most rewarding. Obviously, it was amazing to see the guys, like regulars from other marks and Treaty City drinkers come around and embrace us. Has been amazing. But equally amazing is to see these people who maybe never touched a craft beer before until they came in with us. And like, that's kind of how we see our role, at least to start with, is it's kind of an onboarding for people, and it's an accessibility thing for people, and it's creating a welcoming space where everyone can learn to love this stuff as much as we do, because it's added so much to our lives. You know, my life totally different to where it would have been if I hadn't discovered craft beer, because first of all, as a drinker, I love it, and also it's given me a career, it's given me an education, it's given me everything. So the more people we can get to be as passionate about it as we are, and that doesn't mean necessarily, you know, bombarding them with information about this hop and that hop or whatever. Some people are interested in that and some people aren't. But it's just talking about the stories of these little breweries and these small businesses, because more and more people are interested in that anyway. And the craft beer world has a load of really good stories that way. So it's great for us to be able to share that, you know. Just turn my phone on silent. So like, that's kind of how we see ourselves now, is we're an introduction for a lot of people. And then if people are really already very much into it, like, I'm perfectly happy to kind of get really nerdy and detailed with anyone who wants to come in. So we kind of have the whole set up, and that's why we're very focused as well on staff training and getting Cicerone certification and other. One of our guys, Joe, just did the general certificate in brewing through the IBD, and everyone's getting the certified beer. So there's a couple of people working towards certified Cicerone and all that, because that's where you learn, you know, to get people to embrace it as much as we have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, Jono, before we move on, we're going to be jumping into our Copper Coast by Dungarvan very shortly and chatting to Claire. Kelvin was wondering, will there be bookings for the outdoor seating, or how does it work?
So we're open for bookings now. You can either email us on hi@crewbrewing.ie, or you can message us on Twitter or Instagram. We're taking bookings for half the tables and leaving half the tables free, because I really miss, like, for me, the pandemic's over when bookings for pubs stop. Because I miss just, you know, you're walking home from work, or you bump into a friend and you just go for a quick beer, and you don't need to worry about, did you have a booking? Did you have this sorted? And are you getting kicked out after an hour and a half or whatever it is, you know? So we're keeping half the tables free for that reason, kind of bring back a bit of spontaneity with it. But for people that are really determined to get in, you know, we had people that were in the first time, people that couldn't get in the first time because we were full. So we wanted to make sure there was a way, you know, if people are coming into town or they're coming from somewhere else, to make sure that they're going to get a table.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Jono. Great chatting. Absolutely brilliant to have you on. Thanks for jumping on such short notice. Brilliant to hear the story. Can't wait to see you up and running properly. Can't wait until you don't have to take bookings. That'll be a day for serious celebration. And there was a question in the chat there by Ruben as well. I don't know if you wouldn't mind having a quick scan back up and see if you can answer the chat box about revenue and serving from the tanks.
Yeah, no worries. I'll chat away.
Perfect. Thanks a million, Jono.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to jump over to Clare now, and Dungarvan. If you don't have your Copper Coast out yet, bottle opened, ready to go, then now's your time to do so. Hello, Clare.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good. Again, long time no see.
Yeah, I'll start off by apologising to the people who are here on Thursday because we had scheduled that Cormac would do tonight, but something came up with him as well. So we'll start a rumour that he's off having a Eurovision party with Richard from Black Donkey or something. So you're stuck with me again, unfortunately.
Absolutely no need to apologise, Claire. We're more than happy to have you. In fact, we'd rather have you than Cormac. Yeah, yeah. Poor Cormac. Yeah, Claire. So yeah, thanks a million for jumping back on. I know we do have a bit of quite a different crowd this evening than we did on Thursday, so there's not a huge amount of crossover. But for, I suppose, our audience here this evening, why don't you say a quick hello, introduce yourself, and tell us a bit about Dungarvan, please.
I will, yeah. So my name is Claire, and the guy I mentioned, Cormac, is my brother, and the two of us, with our respective husband and wife, the four of us together started Dungarvan Brewing Company we launched in 2010. So we started, I think there were 7 microbreweries in Ireland when we started. That's the number I have, which I probably should check the maths on at some stage, but that's the number I've always sort of used. So it was in the kind of earlier days of this grouping, maybe. So we, or I suppose the original ethos and everything was bottle conditioned. It was bottled beers that we wanted to do. It was bottle conditioned beer. We did just recently launch the cans, which we did on Thursday, but we have bottled for tonight. So that was what we wanted to do. We wanted to, I suppose, resume brewing in Dungarvan, where there would have always been a brewery, and, you know, be part of this brave new world, I suppose, of Irish craft beer. We were into our beers. We loved trying out beers. Cormac was a home brewer. So it all came from that. We kept having the same conversation over and over. And eventually it was like, will we look at this for real? Around 2008, I think, 7 or 8. So we started researching it at that point and finally got off the ground, had our beers out in 2010. So we started initially with 3 beers. And, you know, people I've been listening all night and I've heard people saying things about 2012, 2013, etc. So even just a couple of years earlier, 2010, it was a different sort of beery landscape at that point. So our original 3 are, I suppose now, the much maligned Holy Trinity, as they've come to be known as, being a black, a red and a yellow one. So, you know, in a very short space of time, things have moved on. I suppose the thinking with that at the time was you've sort of an expression of different types of malts and the different variety and the different colors and flavor profiles and stuff. So they were the 3 we started with. The 3 of them are still part of our core range, which has grown a bit as well. But they are still, you know, the 3 originals, I suppose. So I chose for tonight to do our Red Ale Copper Coast for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it was one of the original 3. And secondly, I think Red Ale doesn't get enough love, doesn't get the love it deserves. And it's probably even our forgotten child in some ways as well, even for myself. It's like when I drink, I go, gee, I didn't have one of these for so long. But I also chose it because I host a lot of our tastings and do our tours and generally do our events and stuff. So I might have met a lot of people here at different things like that. And it's through the tours and the tastings and all that kind of thing that it's a beer I use that for people oftentimes who tell me they don't like beer, or they don't like craft beer, or they don't like those IPAs their friends drink. And I often say, would you give the red a go? And because the horror. So it's a one I always present as it's visually more challenging, but actually more accessible. So it's a wholly different flavor profile. And, you know, from the beers we've had tonight, it's a very different flavor profile. I know we're categorized here under the darks. I don't know, is red dark? I don't know, but it's definitely darker than what we've had so far tonight. So it's because it's such a different flavor profile. It's one I often sort of say to people, you know, you do get the look of horror sometimes when people just have this image of the owl fella drinking Smithwick's and the high stool kind of thing. And oftentimes people are so pleasantly surprised. So I kind of like forcing people to drink it, maybe. So hence why you're getting it tonight. So that was, I suppose, briefly where it and we came from and why it's here tonight with me, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
brilliant. I've been sipping away on it here. It's absolutely tasting phenomenal. Gorgeous.
And beer. I have to say, I mean, I love the cans, but there's nothing like that. I'm opening a bottle, I think, as well. I wouldn't live on that one.
True. Even the sound of dropping the bottle cap that we just heard there, that's a lovely, satisfying, was it ASMR or something like that? Yeah, lovely sound. And by the way, I'll take full responsibility for the extremely tenuous link of putting into dark beers. Darker would have been a better one.
Well, no, I mean, it's not. Yeah, it is going to the darker side. It is going to the malty side. So I've no issue with that. I did get a query during the day today. What temperature was the beer served at? and I replied, sure, whatever you want. But I did appreciate you actually when I was working today, so I wasn't thinking when I replied that. I did appreciate you there giving the heads up there a while ago, say maybe take these out of the fridge. These are ones we don't tend to have too cold. However, having said that, I'm beyond telling people how to drink their beers. You drink it how you like it, as far as I'm concerned at this point. But yeah, we tend not to have this one too cold. We might just pop it in the fridge for a short while before we drink it. But yeah, so that was a good kind of heads up there, right? To tell people, to remind people to take it out of the fridge. So yeah.
Yeah, cheers. Folks, let us know in the comments in the chat, as per usual, how you're getting on with the beer. Tasting superb, perfect beer for this time of the evening as well. I'm really enjoying it, especially directly after the saison. Lovely.
Yeah.
We had a lot of chat last night actually about the Holy Trinity, as you mentioned.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah, and it was kind of saying it's nearly like people have gone away from it, and it's due a resurgence, the Holy Trinity.
I kind of feel that way myself as well. So that's, I think, it's time to own it, It's time to reclaim it for ourselves and own it. So, and I think a little, red ale as well. So, as I did say, it can be our little forgotten child sometimes, but it does really have its fans, and it is one that often people are, probably talking to the wrong audience here, but when you have a more general group where somebody's been dragged along or somebody, that kind of thing, it's often with our tours, I always say 90 minutes, like it's actually an hour, but then there's always, and yourself in these events, Brian, like the chat at the end is the best bit usually. And that's where you can, and this, somebody might come out and say, you're not happy, like what's, that kind of way. So, I always ask people, look, I don't mind if you don't like it, but just try it, kind of thing. So, and we do still generally use this mostly in our tastings when we're doing, because as I said, it's a nice expression to show the different malt profiles as well. Yeah. So, we might do a couple of the lighter ones, the yellow ones, the whatever it's, and, do a red and do a stout. So that it's kind of nice to sort of do a rounded tasting like that as well. So. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
So the style itself, red ale, I guess, it's funny. It's similar to brown ale. It's just categorized by surely the color of it, as opposed to actually any other descriptor. What is a red ale? Like what are we tasting at the moment?
So it's red is the color. My camera, sorry, is a bit off. Obviously the name comes from the color. The color comes from the malts that are used, from the grain in it. So you use crystal malt. It's kind of a crystallized, a toasted malt and that kind of stuff in it. So that's what gives you the color. It's also what gives you those kind of caramelly, toasty sort of flavors to it. So this is a fairly malt forward beer. Now there is a bit of a hop bitterness to it, but it's on the malty side rather than the hoppy side. There's a little bit of smokiness as well in it, which I never say this usually. I kind of see if anybody picks it up, because not many people do pick it up. It depends on your own palate and everything. So there's a little bit of smokiness to it as well, which we use a tiny amount of roasted barley in it. And so, as I said, it's sort of just one in so many people will kind of catch that in it. But that's where your red is coming from. Irish red ale then, which is what we have on the bottle. I know there's contention over that, whether Irish red is a style in itself or not. But we kind of say, it is, what it is. It's around long enough now. There's, so this is the characteristics of an Irish red ale. is the use of those crystal malts, the red color, that kind of malt forward, malt driven beer, and of that kind of mid 4 to 5% sort of ABV percentage. So it's kind of hitting all the notes of that. So yeah, I think it's knocking around long enough that it is absolutely a style in its own.
And yeah, beautiful style. As I said, there's not enough of them at the moment, and they're due more love. And the Wicklow Brewing red ale went down very well last night. It was really, really well received.
I'm glad to hear there was one last night.
yeah, super. We had two. We had a Flemish red from Canvas, which was something totally different altogether. But traditional red, the Wicklow went down very well. Yeah. So just a couple of comments here that I'll jump to. Brian was saying that he had the Mahon Falls recently, another great rye ale, which is brilliant to see. And kind of as a follow-up, he said you launched your cans recently, but do you prefer bottles or do you have a preference?
Myself personally, I suppose like everybody, we're finding cans a bit more convenient at home and, that kind of thing. So we've probably, we've been shifting a bit ourselves to cans, and there's less for poor old Tom to heft to the bottle bank and all that kind of stuff at the end of the week. So from that point of view, but I think myself personally, I do prefer a bottle. There's just something there's a bit more substance or something and I actually had a conversation with somebody today. We were talking about stronger beers, and we were actually talking about our barley wine, which we normally do around the Halloweenish time. And they were saying, would you can? And I said, that would have to be a bottle. It's a settling down. I'm settling into this for a while kind of beer. So probably depend on style as well. But I mean, definitely the cans, the convenience factor, that kind of side of it. So yeah, maybe it depends on the style a little bit as well. But we've released a few of our beers, and we're kind of going to slowly start putting all of our core range into can. But we have been trialing, and actually we were really not expecting to, but pleasantly surprised by our stout in the can. It wasn't one we were sort of thinking about, but when we were trialing, we did a bit of everything, and we're kind of like, actually, we really like this one in the can. So so that mightn't have been an original plan, but that will probably make its way into can at some stage. So yeah, I mean, was that an answer? I'm not sure, but yeah, I think there's something about a bottle to me.
Yeah,
it's a Waterford thing as well, though. I know.
I think that was a good answer, perfect answer. I know it was actually great that we had the one from the canned range and one from the bottle range in throughout the week. So it's brilliant, really nice to do. Just a comment from Brendan saying the smokiness definitely comes through at the warmer temperatures. I think having the beer at fridge temp doesn't allow you to appreciate it properly.
But that's the reason we for tastings we tend to not really chill them at all, because you prefer a tasting whereas, but I mean, doing a tasting is different to enjoying a beer, or you know what I mean, like it's a different setting and that kind of thing. But yeah, generally we don't tend to have them too cold, and yeah, you will get more flavors the less chilled it is, yeah, in any beer, sorry, not just in this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The question from Justin: is the beer name in homage to the Steve Earle song
Copper Coast? I wasn't aware of one. Is that something I should know?
I have no idea either.
No, it's so the Copper Coast Drive. It's coastal drive, basically between Tremor and Dungarvan. Wayne has been there.
I can attest to it being an absolutely glorious drive.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous down there.
Yeah, so it's as I said, if you have the main road, the N25, if you're driving to Waterford, or we take the coastal route, which is the winding cliff tops. It's basically, a lot of it's parallel to the Greenway, so it's a lot of the scenery you're looking at now if you're on the Greenway. And there's old copper mines along it down by Bunmahon, kind of 17th century copper mines, and it's actually a UNESCO
heritage site, is it? Or
yeah. It's a UNESCO heritage site as well, like the copper mines and stuff down there. So that's where the Copper Coast Road is named after, and so all of our beers sort of have geographical local to us. I mentioned we started with three. The three we started with, so Black Rock is our stout, which is an actual rock out in the harbour. I know there's lots of black rocks around the country, but we have an actual rock. And on one side you have the Copper Coast, and on the other is Helvig Head. So that was, or Holy Trinity is that triangle basically of kind of around Dungarvan Bay. So that's where the original three names came out of. And yeah, so that's where Copper Coast. But I'm going to look up the Steve Earle song now. All right, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so it's your Holy Trinity, but it's also the Bermuda Triangle. Around,
yeah, something like
maybe a new name for the three. Anne said Copperhead Road is the Steve Earle song.
Oh, okay.
I do know it now. That the actual
I thought it might have come to my attention before now. It's a song called Copper Coast.
Yeah.
I'm just going to mention, Brian, we were on Thursday evening. We were gutted. We had no cheese, so we were well prepped today. So just on this one, like this is one that we I always say it's our food beer, and it's actually one that sells kind of higher, in restaurants with us. It kind of goes great with lots of different types of food. But I'm actually munching on some lovely aged cheddar, which is sort of the perfect pairing, the classic kind of pairing with this. So it's a good one if you do have the cheese boards out, and you have something like that on it. That's a good one to put with it as well, I think.
Lovely. Yeah, there hasn't been too much cheese.
No cheese talk tonight, and we were kicking ourselves on Thursday that we didn't have cheese.
It was all cheese Thursday. Last night was the same. Now there was some cheese action there, but not too much. Mostly cheesy jokes from myself, not actually too much cheesy chat. Wayne, how are you doing with the Copper Coast?
Yeah, like I've always enjoyed Copper Coast Red. Red wouldn't be my favorite style, but I do like that little hint of smokiness in there. I took out the next beer and the Copper Coast pretty much at about 7:30. So they've been just sat on the shelf out of the fridge. So they just come up to temperature nicely. And delighted to see the beers in cans as well. We've had a few of them already. The Helvik is lovely in the cans.
Cheers, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely lovely stuff. Yeah, I'm thinking it might be close to wrap up time. So that's your cue, folks, to grab your West Kerry Carrick Dove Porter if you don't have it to hand, if you haven't taken it out of the fridge yet. And also a heads up, I guess we have our two big stouts coming later on as well. So again, personal preference, but absolutely take them out of the fridge now if you want to bring them back up to room temp a bit before we get into them. Claire, absolute pleasure as always. Fantastic chatting on Thursday. Fantastic chatting again this evening. And
we'll miss you next week.
Yeah. Tomorrow night. We're going tomorrow night again, are we?
I know. I'm looking forward now to kicking back now with my Carrick Dove as well. So I think we've settled the lawsuit. So Carrick Dove, of course, being the Irish or Black Rock. So I think that was been settled out of court, yeah.
Settled on the steps.
Thanks again, Claire. Always a pleasure. And sure, we'll chat soon.
Cheers. See you.
Okay, now we're going down to Kerry. Adrienne, are you with us?
I hope so.
Oh, I'm back. Apologies, I had a quick signal drop there at probably the worst possible time.
All right. How are you?
Very well, Adrienne. Welcome. I am absolutely delighted. We don't see much of your beer in Meath, so I can't wait to get stuck into this. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the brewery and yourselves, and a little bit about the beer we're about to enjoy.
Right. Well, my name is Adrienne, and I started the brewery in 2008. And beside me is my daughter Maud. Actually, in fact, she was the inception, perhaps, to put the seed in my brain to start a brewery. As I drove up the Hudson Valley in America from New York State to Canada, and we came upon a brew pub in one of those places.
Lake Placid, maybe.
Lake Placid, exactly. But I have a pub, essentially, and it occurred to me that I might investigate making beer. And Maud was a young child, I don't know, 9 or 10 or something. So it was kind of like, that's why she's here. But so when I returned home, I just really thought about the whole prospect of making beer because I had a license to sell beer. I also have my own well, and I think as well I like to be in charge, and I loved the idea of autonomy in terms of making a product that I could provide to my customers. So that's sort of the inception. In fact, I do think that we started with the smallest budget ever in terms of a startup brewery. I had €20,000 and I approached a fellow publican in Ballyferriter who had equally €20,000 he wanted to input. So we started the brewery with €40,000 in 2008. Donal, he's subsequently withdrawn from the partnership, all amicably, but that literally is what started West Kerry Brewery in 2008, €40,000. A long-time colleague of mine who's worked in the pub and still works in the pub, used to work in the brewery, Paul, a lot of people know who he is. He just now works in the bar, the pub, but so we're still what we were, and Maud is still my daughter, thankfully, and still beside me. So the beer, anyway, just to get on to the beer, it's so difficult to begin to explain how it came about. But essentially, it's for me, it's even though it wasn't the first beer we brewed a dark ale, actually, Cool-Durcha. And that was inspired because I just started the brewery thinking I'll make beer. I hadn't ever made beer before. So what I did know is what I liked the taste of. And primarily I was driven by a desire to drink black beer, which I liked an awful lot of. A certain black beer that a lot of us might know. And I really loved the comfort of the maltiness of black beer. So I genuinely, like really from a kind of a base desire to satisfy myself, wanted to create a black beer that would satisfy me. I didn't want it too bitter. I didn't want any conduits other than malt, water, and yeast in it. So I didn't want any coffee, beans, or any of that. I wanted to make a beer. So we've actually achieved that. And in fact, what we're drinking, Carrick Dove, is primarily the same recipe that because we all, like, there was no it's whoever's in the brew hut. We are kind of a bouncing board off each other. There's no princessness, if you like, although I'm the boss, if that makes sense.
Just in case I needed clarification.
Yeah, you think. Have you conflicted? So I really hope that you kind of relate to this. But for me, so earlier in the evening, we enjoyed really lovely beers, lovely hoppy beers, really refreshing beers. And if I was to put those flavors on a level, I'd say they're up here in terms of they only reach this level of my satisfaction. But that's very important if I'm really thirsty. So I want that kind of beer up here when I'm really thirsty. I've just, run a mile or worked a hard day or something, and I need a quick satisfaction. I want one of those beers up here. But this and all these dark beers, and I've actually just down the Astral Grains by Lineman prior to coming on here, and it's just divine. It's delicious. I know round the clock. In fact, I've been having a sneaky sip of that also, because they just reach into the core of you. You know, they're very satisfying. There's just a lovely kind of base satisfaction about them, a comfort. They're like warm blanket or something, you know.
I was exactly going to use that word. There's just something comforting about the flavors that are coming through, and as you said, it doesn't have that coffiness that you can have in some porters. It's just, I'm really enjoying it, and just from looking at some of the comments coming through as well, there's other people enjoying it as well. So in Ballyferris, you have your own well. Do you actually think that having your own source of water makes a big impact on the overall flavour of the beers you produce?
Without a doubt. So water and yeast they have a massive impact for me, anyway. So we have a particular strain of fresh yeast we use. We use it to make all our beers. They're all ales. Ale being determined by the yeast as opposed to the color of the beer. But the water it's a massive impact. Our water is full of lime. It's a very high calcified water, just naturally. I just happen to have it. It's a tremendous big plus, if you like. And I just love our water. I think it's fantastic, actually. Yeah.
And this actually reminds me, having lived in the UK for quite a long time, from the bottle, it's very gently carbonated. It's almost like a cask conditioned ale in the glass. It's really, really smooth. Is that by design, that you don't have a large amount of carbonation in your beer?
Yeah, it is, actually. It is. So we go in although lots of people would know science is not my area of expertise, but we go for like a 2.5 volume carbonation, or certainly in this, but in our Bale Bond or more gold colored beers, maybe up to 2.7 only. So we want to keep it nice on the lower end. The other thing, now some people will know this, but the other thing is our brew house is a cask ale brew house. And in fact, when I started the brewery, it was a cask beer only. So I know Libby touched on, they started in bottle. I know Dungarvan started in bottle and then went to keg. Both those breweries went to keg. Well, we did something other than that. We started in cask, then went to bottle, and then went to keg. So, and in fact, we're very excited to announce that next week we're about to brew our Uncle Column's Dark Mild, our beautiful cask, because I'm opening the pub again on the 7th of June for outside trade, obviously only. And because we didn't brew this last year because we weren't allowed serve customers. I didn't get my kitchen open last year. I won't get it open this year. It's not viable. But this year there's no criteria to serve food if you open your pub. So we're brewing our Uncle Column, and we do 9-gallon casks. So we need everybody knows this, you need it gone in 3 to 4 days. You know, we need the volume, but it's being brewed next week and we will be serving it on the 7th of June.
If this was a conversation and it was bingo, I'd be like, cask, check, that's one number. Absolutely. I'm like, how quickly can I get down there? Oh man, that sounds absolutely brilliant. It's so good to hear an appreciation for malt forward beers. Like, undoubtedly the sales IPA. But when you get presented with a really well-made malt forward beer, I think there's no comparison because it just shows the skill and complexity of flavors that are in there. When will it be on cask? Because I'll have to check the old calendar and get down there.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. June 7th, Wayne. Pop it in the calendar. Adrian, like, you wouldn't believe the amount of cask chat we've had over the last 2 days. The demand for people are just clambering for it at this stage. So I think you might be getting a flood of people into West Kerry now on the 7th of June from solely everyone on this call anyway. We'll be flying down, absolutely flying down. Just
Get
to catch up on...
Get your rockets.
Yeah. Just to catch up on some of the comments here. Anna saying, really lovely porter, love the old style label too, smoky taste, and she'd never tried it before, so it's going down very, very well. Richard was saying, I've had this before, but not when it's not long out of the fridge, and having it closer to room temperature, it's a completely different beer and far superior in his opinion. Differences night and day. Jason and Kendra love the smoothness of it. The carbonation is spot on too. So it's going down extremely, extremely well. Lovely stuff. So that's fantastic news. A dark mild as well. That's coming. That's going to be just top notch.
Swoon, I would.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So obviously it'll be outdoor, opening up soon. Are there other kind of plans in the pipeline at the moment, Adrian?
Brian, to be honest, there are. So our Uncle Colm is actually he's a staple. He's actually a continual beer in our. But in terms of new beers, each year we actually I know Peter from Dingle, the Porterhouse is coming on soon, but we every year we get distillery casks or barrels depending on what's available, and we have a beer coming through shortly. But also we have a commemorative beer coming through as well. I'm trying to think how to present it in terms of a category. So while we have botanicals, we have many different categories of beer, and some we have a seasonal range, 3. In the range, and each one has a different botanical. And then we also have a limited edition range. They're kind of whiskey, barrel-aged stuff. Bourbon-aged. Or bourbon. And the one we have coming through, actually, I think this might be an appropriate place to discuss it, is it's called All Seasons. And it's got 4 botanicals and a herb, yarrow, but it's a commemorative beer for Maud's dad, Porter Creek. So we're using gorse, dandelion, primrose, I said dandelion, yarrow, I can't think. Anyway, I'm getting a bit cross-eyed here, but really what I'm trying to say is we're always making new stuff. It's a really kind of it's a Groot, All Seasons Groot. It's our first Groot, but it's commemorative beer because we're very connected to our locality and our people. Our people are very important, our story. We bring all of our people with us. I feel like we're like these, people that drag their dead on cloaks behind them, fully, we're like those people.
Using what's around us,
And then throw botanicals into the beer. Sorry. Maybe I've done too much card though.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What I'm saying is well is just like using the botanicals that are around us. So like with that commemorative beer that's coming up, like I was sent off on my bicycle one day. It was really sunny, and my mom and Daniel, our head brewer, they just gave me like 2 big bin bags, and and a pair of scissors, and we're like, off you go. And I was like, what? And they were like, anything you see on the side of the road, just pick it and throw it into the bag, and we'll try and make a beer out of it, you know. So I think that's what the huge emphasis is on with a lot of our beers, you know. Because I'm kind of going, woohoo, I get to go out and run through fields, you know. And then it's like, oh, they're just going to create something out of it, you know what I mean? Like,
will it be the first Irish group?
I don't think so, Wayne. I know Peter Curtin in Roadside Tavern. He was doing those as well. So no, it's just the first Dingle Peninsula group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but, you know, we're not really tied up on the first, or it's just what we're doing, you know.
Always paddle your own canoe.
There we go.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear. I love using all the indigenous ingredients, essentially everything that's local to you to create the beer. It's a fantastic story. Love it, and I can't wait to taste the beers. Quickly, just I'm looking at the time. We'll be bringing Mark in soon now with some Astral grains, which I know you said you've been enjoying already, Adrienne.
Yes, yum.
It's absolutely spectacular. Just before we wrap up, what is a Groot? Just for people on the call.
So it doesn't have hops, although we've added hops. So traditionally, my understanding is, I'm not a beer expert, believe it or not. Not an expert, but I understand it means you use for flavoring in your beer, you're simply throwing in herbs. So they would be plants, edible plants, from your area or from wherever. Whereas hops, primarily, people are growing hops and that. So Groot is I think that's the difference. But as I say, I'm not an expert.
Yeah, fantastic. That sounds brilliant. Cannot wait for that. That sounds absolutely spectacular. And we also can't wait to go visit down in West Kerry as soon as we can. It's going to be fantastic to, I know there's been already calls to order a tour down to you. So we're going to have to do that, organize something.
And would you mind, Brian, before I go, I really do want to say about all the artwork. Like, art has been tremendously important. So all the labels are like, I have the same graphic designer from the get-go, Andrew Duggan, and he lives down the road from me. But I did the Three Sisters original drawing, and on the back is a drawing as well. So, you know, what I'm trying to say is, like, we were bringing everything. So label, you know, the authenticity of the art label, to the water, to the attention to detail, you know, everything is just very specific. There's a reason, so it's not just a whim. It's very, we pay particular attention to detail. So when people buy this product, we're so grateful, because really they're kind of nurturing many people, like they're thanking loads of people by buying it.
Absolutely fantastic, and a great summation, I suppose, of Indie Beer Week itself, Adrienne. It's the passion that everyone here, all the independent brewers, have, not only for their own beers, but the amount of love and attention that goes into every single one of them, but also for the local communities, other independent, like artists, stuff like that, tying it all together. So it's a fantastic message and brilliant to hear. So thank you so much.
Cool. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Abel. We'll chat soon. We'll chat shortly, hopefully.
Okay, yeah. All right, thanks.
Okay, so we are going to go back to Dublin now. We're going to go to around Rathcoole area in Dublin. We're going to say hello to Mark and Vivian. Hello, Mark. Vivian, are you there?
Evening all. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone.
How are things?
We're in for the rodeo, are we?
Yeah. We're flying now at the moment. Anyway, yeah, we're going strong. Absolute pleasure to see you both again, to be chatting. It's been a while, actually, so it's good to see you. now everyone, obviously, this is your cue to crack open your Astral Grains, get it in the glass, have a few sips, and become acquainted with it. While you're doing that, Mark, Vivian, why don't you say hello, introduce yourselves, and tell us a bit about Lineman.
You first.
I'll let Vivian do that. She's good at that.
Just throw me in at the deep end. We're Mark and Viv, and we're a husband and wife team, and we formed Lineman in 2019. So our second anniversary will be coming up in August, we hope, and we will he completely threw me there. Sorry, everyone.
He threw you under the bus completely, Vivian. Put
completely
it back on.
Did.
Come on. We're going 2 years now nearly. So we're coming up to 2 years in August. The August bank holiday was the first beer we had out. And we took over a unit that Rascals used to be in down in Greenogue in Rathcoole in 2019. And we got some of their old kit. So it's a pretty basic 10-hec kit that the guys had. And they worked the backside off it, and Galway Bay had it before them, I think. So it's like, I tell everybody, it's probably the hardest working kit like in the country, and it's still going strong. It's fairly basic, it does the job, and we're just what else can I say? We're down there we started off making First Light, which actually is, a guy was showing me a picture that he had of it tonight. He was drinking a bottle of it. It's 2 years old now. That was a grisette that we did in 33 cl bottles, so that was like an impossible sell for a start. So we came at this fairly naive, you know. And then after that, we did a mixed fermentation beer with some Kvike yeast that I'd got handed down from home brewers. It came from a guy that I got from down in Limerick, and I had been keeping that going for years, and we did Saga with that. And then I found out after that we couldn't can it because it had mixed culture in it, so we had to change the recipe on that. So like it's a series. Then we did Idle, or Red IPA that I called it. I heard you talking earlier on about the call everything an IPA and it'll sell better, and so we kind of did that. And then people complained that it wasn't an IPA. So, you know, we kind of did everything as badly as you could, really. But it was, you know, it was a learning experience.
Yeah, two people are passionate about something and just kind of took off and started doing it. Mark's been a long time researching beer, and I've been dragged along for the ride, and it's been great crack. And when Mark got the opportunity, because he'd been home brewing for so long and loved it so much, when he got the opportunity to make a business of it, he went for it, and that's where Lineman was born back in 2019. And we've been going ever since. It's been a fun ride.
Fantastic. I'm just keeping an eye on the comments here, and I saw one from Gary saying deadly can art on the Astral Grains, and the name is class too. So that leads me nicely into saying, so we've kind of teed up. Mark is the brewer anyway.
Mark is the brewer, and I'm the designer and general all-around dog's body. Astral Grains, Mark came up with the name and I came up with the can, and he brewed a beautiful stout, and that's the story of Astral.
It was really nice to hear Adrienne there earlier, because since she enjoyed it, because I'm delighted to be sandwiched here between West Kerry and Porterhouse, because like Carrick Dove was one of my favourite porters when I tasted it as a home brewer, probably like 2012 or something maybe, and it was very hard to get. And we used to meet in the Lucan County bar down the Spa Hotel in Lucan, and the guy there, Jerry, used to get it in for us, and we used to fly through it. We loved it because it was such a unique beer. And then, like, you got Peter coming on after, I think, and Rastlers, like, is one of my all-time favorite stouts. So, yeah, I'm in good company here, sandwich in the middle.
Yeah, not bad, not doing too bad, Mark. So for what you were saying at the start of going into it the wrong way or making a few mistakes along the way, you're doing something right, that's for sure. They're making absolutely spectacular beer. Stunning stuff. I'm glad you teed up the Rastlers comment. We'll come back to that in a minute. The beer itself, Astro Grains now, that we're enjoying, what are we enjoying at the moment?
So Astro Grains was a beer that I made for Christmas in 2019, because I knew there'd be a lot of imperial stouts, and I hadn't been in the brewery long enough to figure out if I could actually make a decent imperial stout down there. So it was kind of in the territory that I could get a decent strong beer out for Christmas, and so we went with a foreign extra or kind of export stout, and this is what I brewed, and it turned out quite nice. Like it was a bit of luck because I just made the recipe up down there. I'd never brewed it before, and kind of just my kind of style of stout, really. You know, it's got good bit of bitterness in the back of it, and when you taste it first, it's kind of like a cafe cream coffee smoothness at the start, and then in the aftertaste you get a nice dark chocolate, and then as you drink in the beer, you'll get a little bit more spiciness, and the roastiness will start to develop in the flavor. Like, so it kind of changes as you're drinking through the beer. So that's kind of it.
It's my favorite stout anyway, that's for sure. The 7.2% helps.
Yeah. It's stunning. Yeah, I'll ask people how they're getting on with it in the comments there. I can see Anne saying Astro Grains is gorgeous. Rob and Anne-Marie saying 2 of my favorite stouts for 2021 were Astral and Gigantic.
Thank you.
Doing something right with the stouts. Chris saying love that. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I want to go back to a comment Brian's had earlier, Brian Eastwood. He said, once COVID is over, I'm not forgetting that I owe you a mash tun dig out that I promised from an earlier crack beer Zoom meetup.
He does. I haven't forgotten that either. I haven't forgotten that. And he's got no excuses. He can, anytime he's ready, when he's ready, he can just message me on Twitter or something, and I'll sort him up with a date.
Every day. Yeah, and John was saying everyone at Crew fell in love with Astro Grains when we were open. Everyone in the bar, and so can't wait to get more Lineman into the building. Yeah, so it's fantastic.
We can't wait to visit them down in Crew. So yes. They've only opened up in the pandemic, and it must have been tough. I cannot wait to actually physically be able to go to places again and have a pint and chill and meet people. Be good.
Yeah. That's gonna be super. And I suppose the teeing up what's coming next, Mark. And I know kind of some of the inspiration for this beer was from the Porterhouse and having pints in the Porterhouse. How does I suppose how did Rasslers inspire this?
Of the Porterhouse make great stouts anyway, but Rasslers is by far my favorite. Like I could live on it, and any excuse I get, I go in there and I'll drink it. And what I like about it is the bitterness in it, and you know it's a distinctive beer. So like I think that there's elements of that in this beer. This is a bit bigger in terms of the alcohol, and obviously it's different beer. Like, but like that beer. A stout that's bitter, that has enough bitterness in it and is dry, is my kind of stout. I like a stout that I can drink a few of, and I like a sweet stout every now and again as well. I know there's some lovely ones out there at the moment, but I think a dry stout is hard to beat, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which are very quaffable and dangerous.
Yeah.
Quaffable 7.2% stout.
Yeah. Way he makes them.
You don't have to drink too many of them. It's up to yourself.
Yeah. I see Peter Mosley saying, thought I better join in now. So he's floating around. Brian is asking, are you going to be doing brewery tours and a tap room? Anything along those lines?
I don't know. You know what? When the pandemic kicked off, we'd only been going 6 months, right? And we had a whole load of different ideas. And like I said, half our ideas were cockeyed. They were never going to work. The pandemic got us focused on canning, and that's what we've been doing and trying to get cans out there, like getting kegs and draft and all this other stuff is a bit of a distraction in terms of it, very hard to get something back in it. So I don't know. I'd love to have a tap room and see people's faces and hear their feedback on the beer when they're drinking it. But I think in terms of the location that we're in an industrial estate in Greenogue, it probably isn't the most scenic destination. It wouldn't be a destination brewery. And yeah, I don't know, maybe tours. Maybe we'll be able to do something with tours or something like that, I think, as a start, and we'll see what we do after that. Be nice to kind of get people in and let them see the place and talk to them face to face.
Brilliant. A few more comments here. Brendan saying Astral is class, perfect for having off the shelf and rather reasonably priced too, which is, that's a great comment too. Bit of a random question, but would you consider adding lactic acid to it?
Lactic acid? Not really, no. Lactose, maybe.
No.
I know there's a lot of lactose stouts floating around at the moment. It's not something I'm fond of, and I have no interest. I wouldn't put lactic acid into it, no. In terms of making a sour stout, is it?
Must be, yeah, maybe something along those lines. We'll ask Brendan to elaborate. Joey said, I said this before, and it may be because it's nearly the last beer of the night again, but as not a stout person, this is a fantastic beer. So you're converting the non-stout drinkers as well. So that's always good. Something I want to touch on, Mark, like yourselves, you're not going too long, as you said, you just kind of just around 2 years, and most of that's been during the pandemic, but your output has been absolutely fantastic. Like you've had a huge amount of new beers coming out throughout the 2 years, and not a single miss amongst them as well. All super stuff. Where's your back catalogue coming from? How are you doing this?
I don't think like any of the ones we've done so far. Like I've got, like I said, I was home brewing for God knows how long. I've got Beersmith that most home brewers will know, software that you use for doing your homebrew recipes on, and I think like I've got hundreds of recipes on it. But I haven't actually really brewed one like for like at the brewery, because kind of use the home brewing recipes as a kind of a learning curve. What works and what doesn't work, and we've been just kind of doing. We tried to do the more obscure styles, and they were very hard sell for us. And we don't have enough momentum as a new brewery to kind of pull those beers through. So now we have to kind of do a bit more mainstream stuff that people will try, because people wouldn't try a lot of our stuff. One of the first beers we did was Saga, and we called it a Tart Vike, right? First off, we got slated for calling it Tart Vike because it wasn't a style. I knew it wasn't a style, but I didn't know what else to call it because it wasn't anything. There was no style that defined it that I could think of, and we had to get the can artwork out, so that's what it was called. Then guys were telling us that it was hard. People weren't buying it because they didn't know what a Tart Vike was, and it was kind of goes back to something that I saw Libby saying earlier on, that if you change the name on it, maybe it makes a completely different story. So yeah, another lesson.
Just call it an IPA.
Yeah, so it's just really,
Yeah. Wayne, how are you getting on with Astral over there?
I'm getting on absolutely great with it. I'm dangerously close to the end of my glass, which is absolutely testament to the quality of the beer, that the alcohol is so well hidden, is so well balanced. I've been a big fan of Lineman since Grisette, since First Light, since I walked into Rodney's off license in Trim and I saw it. I picked up bottles of it, loved it, and I really like the Electric Avenue as well. They're excellent use of hops as well. So I'm really enjoying this, and I'm kind of worried that I might fall asleep.
We're almost there, Wayne.
Around the clock to go yet.
The buzz will kick in a second, Wayne. You'll be flying. You get a second.
Get a second wind. I'll eventually get the second wind.
Yeah, thanks on that. The Electric Avenue, we really enjoy doing it because we've been getting working with Will and Lochran hops in Lochran malts to get us like working closely with them to get nice new hops. And like I think particularly number 2 stood out for me as Talus hop. The first time we tried it, I was just blown away by the uniqueness of the characters of that hop.
Is that the Talus and Hallertau one, is it?
Yeah.
That's the one I was messaging about. I don't know which one I was messaging. Who it was? Was it you?
Me, probably. It comes to the Instagram is me and Viv. You don't know who you're going to get back. You could have like a schizophrenic conversation.
That's why I asked. But no, like Talus was a totally new one on me. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Generally like hoppy beers, but that was amazing. I absolutely loved it. It was like an orange split or something. It was just delicious.
Yeah, I'll second that one as well. And I was also messaging you directly after drinking that, Mark. It was absolutely beautiful, beautiful beer. Lovely stuff. The chat has gone. I suppose, I don't know, conspicuously quiet or possibly scarily quiet. I don't know what's happened to everyone, or if they're just enjoying the beer so much they can't even type. It's definitely worth mentioning now, with it being obviously Indie Beer Week, ICBI organised event, that this is the silver medal winning beer in the ICBI Beer of the Year.
Yeah, that was great. We're delighted with that. Absolutely
fantastic. It's a super achievement. So congrats anyway, and it's 100% well deserved. I'm sure everyone will agree here. Yeah. So I'm thinking then, next steps. What's coming down the line for yourselves? What's
We've got our second anniversary coming up for the August bank holidays. We've got a few little treats lined up for that. We're going to treat ourselves and our customers with a few nice little indulgent treats, and we've been stocking up all our barrels. We've got a load of barrels in. Really good barrels, and we've got stuff going into those. So like for the last month or so, we've been making beer for the barrels. We haven't really been canning anything new for the last month. So that stuff is all going in for the long game, and we got that. We're probably going to mix things up and try and, like Liam said it earlier on as well, you know, that you start off and you do something as a one-off and it may become more regular or seasonal or whatever, you know. So we're kind of in that territory. We're, like I said to you, we started off making stuff we couldn't sell, so we're figuring out what sells. We'll make more of it, and then when we get the breathing space, we can do more stuff that we want to do, you know. So that's kind of what the plan is at the moment.
Yeah, that I've been keeping an eye on the Instagram accounts and seeing all the barrels getting filled, and it's like, yeah, it's serious teasers going out.
Oh, there's some serious smells in the brewery. They're just delicious, absolutely delicious. When you open up the bung and those new barrels, oh.
What sort of timeline are we looking at there, or is it a case of it's ready when it's ready?
Well, the first stuff we'll have out will be for the August bank holiday. We're going to have something out for that, out of the barrels, and but most of the other stuff is going down for probably for Christmas and beyond that, you know, longer term stuff in the barrels. So yeah, that's the kind of the current plan at the moment, and yeah, we're just tipping away through it with a few more electric avenues coming out as we get something that justifies making it, and yeah, that's kind of the plan.
Okay, great. With Electric Avenue, is that always the same base beer with different hops, or do you tweak the base? Okay, yeah.
No, I think some beers are more. Some of the hops I think are more suited to a pale ale, and some of them are more suited to heavier dry hopping in an IPA. So whatever we think the hop is going to work best in is what we're kind of working towards with it. So we'll have the hops first, then we'll decide what sort of beer we're going to make with the hops, and then that's the Electric Avenue. So it's got it, like, it's all been pretty much 2020 crop hops that we've used so far, and we haven't been tight with them, and yeah, just having a bit of fun with them, you know, see what they can do.
Okay, brilliant. Just by way of a couple of wrap-up comments here, Alan's saying, I'm going to be drinking a lot more Lineman after having this tonight. So yeah, that's always great to hear. Yeah, they're based in Rathcoole, and thanks for answering there, Brian. Can't wait for the barrels. Killian saying, I got Rabbit Hole on draft today in a growler. It's an unreal IPA.
I know where he got that.
Oh yeah, is there one place?
We only made 3 kegs of that, and one went out to Mother Max for the Meet the Brewer thing that we did with them. Another one went. Where'd the other one go?
I don't know.
We had 3 of them. One went to another bar that was doing growlers. I can't remember who it was now, but that third one I had down at the brewery, and I know that went up to carry out Tyrrellstown last week. So that's in premium condition. That was never out of a fridge for longer than a couple of hours. That never got warm, that beer. So I think that, yeah, there's a good example of it. Because I think with the Rabbit Hole and with the IPAs that have the darker crystal malts and stuff in them, I think they tend to go off a cliff fairly quickly. So you need to keep them cold. You need to drink them fresh. So I was kind of delighted to see that going up to Tyrrellstown and going up by the Growler. Good stuff.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's Killian saying that's it. Lovely, best place for growlers is in Tyrrellstown. Yeah, just keeping an eye on the clock here. No pun intended there. Actually, we're coming up to around the clock time. Moving on to our ICBI gold medal winning beer. In fact, so it's a perfect way to round out our Indie Beer Week celebrations, we'll say. Just to say, Mark, Viv, absolute pleasure as always chatting. Incredible beers. Like you've been knocking them out since day one. It's extremely impressive. So fair play to you, well done, and long may it continue.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Brian. Thank you, everyone.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll chat soon. Cheers. Okay, so you've been sufficiently warned, folks. It's now time to go on to our final beer of the evening and our final beer of Indie Beer Week. And we're going to invite in Peter now and say hello. And we're also going to crack open our Around the Clocks.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Peter, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good. Just very quickly, I'd like to thank, on behalf of the ICBI, I'm the chairman of the organisation, just to thank everyone who's worked for this evening and the previous nights. Obviously, yourself, Brian, Elizabeth has done tremendous work getting this all pulled together. Von has done a good bit of work, and Liam, of course, getting the beers out, and his staff as well. So just to thank everybody for that, and obviously all the brewers for taking part as well. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries at all. I would say, well, on behalf of myself anyway, no worries at all. It's been an absolute pleasure, an honour, and great fun to do as well. So yeah, I've been absolutely delighted to be involved, and Wayne this evening as well, and John yesterday. It's been fantastic collaborative effort of everyone coming together to make it happen. So yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant, really good. Yeah,
no, the brewers work well together, so it's a good group to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So Peter, a brewery. Maybe a man and a brewery that needs little to no introduction, but I'm going to ask you to do it anyway.
I'm feeling a lot older this evening. When I listen to all these breweries with their 10-year anniversaries coming up, I think this is our 25th anniversary. So we've kind of done it all. We've started a brew pub, we've opened a brewery our second brewery in 2000. We've just opened our third brewery 4 years ago. So we've kind of done it all. Obviously, I think stouts are probably what we're well known, but most known for. We're expanding into the types of beers, but which I think I'm hoping we do quite well. But stouts tend to be the one that we're particularly well known for, and this one seems to, which is a bit of fun really for us. It's done quite well. We're quite pleased with this. It's just been
that's a bit of an understatement there, but yeah, it's done very well. Fantastic beer. So yeah, as always, I'll ask our audience here, pop in the comments, how are you getting on with this? Are you enjoying it? How's it going down?
So my dog's just chosen to kick off. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way that beer tastes 12%.
What? No, it's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
They sat there quietly all night long and they choose this moment. So anyway, I do apologise.
No problem at all.
I was just saying, Peter, I've taken, the nose on it is amazing, and I've taken my first mouthful of it and I'm going, there's no way this beer is 12%. The warmth is there, but it doesn't have that real harshness.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can have, but I'm there looking at the label, 12%, does not taste 12.
Well, my real interest, what I really like, we've been, as I just pointed out, been brewing for a long time now, and what I really enjoy is sort of British. Obviously, I'm British. Mild, well-made, low alcohol or relatively low alcohol beers. 3 to 4.5%. That's kind of what I was brought up on, and the beers that taste like beer. But I do get quite interested in the idea of complex, strong beers, and we've been experimenting over the years with a few different types with greater or lesser degrees of success. And this was just that. This kind of emerged out of that. We saw something similar in the States a few years ago, and this was sort of an evolution on that. And then using the casks that we've got in Dingle, just that's as much because they're cheap for us, but and easy to get hold of. It's trying to work in that complexity and the alcoholic strength, but not making it so overpowering.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than strong beer that tastes like strong beer.
Absolutely. Strong beer needs it. Sometimes you need to know it's a strong beer to tell you to take your time. But there's a wonderful complexity in this beer, and it's like, maybe you could, for the audience, explain the whole 24-hour brew and the hop additions, because I suppose for a lot of people, particularly those of a homebrewing background, they're trying to get their head around 24-hour brew. What does that even mean?
Okay, I think the label is probably the difficulty is trying to explain all the information in the space that we have. The idea, when you're brewing traditionally strong beers, you end up with a strong wort, and then you're discarding lots of relatively high strength wort because otherwise you end up diluting the contents of your copper. So we were looking at the idea of basically collecting the entire contents of a mash and then reducing that down to concentrate it. So we double the strength, really. So we start off with a 4.5% of 45 density of 45 degrees wort, and then boil it up to 90 degrees. And then there are certain, what we were looking at is certain merits of that. There are lots of difficulties that come in to the chemistry of it all, but it's to try and increase the depth of flavor. So then we're basically boiling it for 24 hours, reduce the volume by half. With our new brewery, we can do that in a fairly controlled way, because there is a bit of a sleepless night associated with it. It's like a kettle that boils dry, but we could sort of manage to cope with that and essentially eliminates 50% of the water as steam. And it seems to have worked out. We've done it a few more times subsequently. I'm not sure that, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure that I'm always happy with the outcome. We've not bottled it yet. That's still very much in the early stages. We did one Thursday, Friday this week for another sort of release. So we're just playing with the idea and doing lots of experimentation with it to try and work out how to kind of get it right, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had Martin on Thursday. Actually, he told us that it was boiling as we were speaking.
That's right. Yeah. It was, as he was on screen with you, I was back in the brewery watching it. It's a bit it's like watching a kettle boil, a saucepan boil. You don't want it to boil dry, so there's a bit of nerve-wracking element goes with it. Don't want to leave it in case it boils dry, but it made it through the night anyway.
Brilliant. Good to hear. So a lot of people will be happy to hear that. So Peter, like 25 years now, Porterhouse has been going. It must be like a serious a whirlwind of a time. Yeah, but it probably feels like a long time, but an absolute blur as well at the same time. I suppose how have you enjoyed the journey to date?
It's been. I came over here with the idea of being working here for 2 years or something, and then I've been here ever since. It's excellent, to see the way there's craft beer everywhere, isn't it? Has emerged, developed, and become popular. Ireland, when we first started here, the brewery that we put in, we were talking about brew pubs earlier. The accountant described the brew pub being put into Parliament Street as being the most expensive bric-a-brac in a bar he'd ever seen. The skepticism was tremendous, and it's great to see that was misplaced, and the industry has gone on. It's not been without its difficulties, but to see it's go from strength to strength.
Fantastic, yeah.
It has been a slog at times, I must say.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Just some feedback on the beer here, Peter. Killian saying that's like velvet, unreal. Harold said, wow, this hitting the eyes as well as the nose, and I haven't even tasted it yet. Super stuff. A question from Ruben, who said the last time he asked you this question, you said no, but he's going to ask it again after a global pandemic. Will TSB be coming back?
If Ruben can guarantee to drink all the beer that I make, then yes, I'll think back. Yeah, it was a beer that we had, like it's a very British style. Those people don't aren't aware of it, which I suspect is a lot of people. Cask ale, quite modest strength, with a lot of Steering Goldings as the hop variety, actually, if I remember rightly. And it was very, very popular. But the problem is always, like with these styles, is trying to get the volume through. And I started as a traditional cask ale brewer. That's my background. I worked in several brewers in the UK as a cask ale brewer. And moving over here was a bit of an eye-opener that nobody drank cask ale.
Very, strange contrast, I'd say, stark contrast.
In those days, that was 25 years ago. It might be changing a little bit now, but probably not tremendously.
Well, after the chat of the last 2 days, I think, as we said, we're going to see our cask ale revival. So it's in good hands. It's going to happen.
Okay, well, definitely.
That's good. It'll start with Ruben drinking a full cask of TSB.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to hold him to that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Beer is going down a treat. I'll keep asking here how people are getting on with it. So challenge accepted, says Ruben. You've been going 25 years now, Peter. Obviously, it's been a fantastic journey. What's on the horizon for the Porterhouse? What are the plans moving forward?
Well, we, as a business, we're continuing trying to expand into different markets. Obviously, Ireland is an important part of our business, but we're less reliant on our own bars. So we're exporting to increasing numbers of countries. New beer styles. To be honest with you, I think if other brewers on the group here would probably be familiar with my lack of interest or lack of excitement on IPAs and hop-forward beers. I'm looking for a more rounded, traditional style of beer, but we're producing new variations of these new styles, New England IPAs, whatever. I think I'm too old. I've been told I've been too old now to make a great deal of input beyond some sort of technical guidance on this subject.
Don't listen to them, Peter. Don't listen to them.
But anyway, we'll still be making 4X and other sort of more traditional beers, if that's of any consolation to anyone.
No, that's fantastic to hear. One of the we've had to try and find these very small positives and small wins in the past 12 months plus, but one of them was 4X Rasslers making it into cans and been shipped there. That was a welcome sight anyway. It made a few lockdown evenings a lot more tolerable.
Yeah, no, we're pleased with that, the success of that. Traditionally, the perception's been the beers that we like, as in, say, the more mature members of the team, generally prove to be the less successfully commercial beers, and we've been sort of ploughing a lonely furrow with 4X, and it's great to see that it's becoming popular, and people are starting to appreciate it for what it is. We took some kegs over to an event in the States last year, and we're particularly impressed with how much interest and excitement there was there with a beer that was, it's quite complex, but it's not hop driven. It's all about the malt, and they were very excited, and it shows that people are interested in beers that aren't just about the hops. It's all about the flavour in general, and the balance and the complexity of those beers.
It's actually interesting you say that, Peter. I was listening to a podcast recently with Jamil from Heretic Brewing in California, and he says a lot of similar things to what you were saying there. The beers he likes drinking himself are not the ones that sell the most. he loves his porters, he loves his barley wines and those kind of things. But when they're on the tap in the tap room, it's all the IPAs and stuff that sell.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's not uncommon. But what would be a guilty pleasure of a beer for you that you kind of go, oh, I kind of fancy something, and I don't care if people are going to judge me, but what would you think?
God, I don't really know, to be honest with you. You know what? Well, is it because I come from a slightly different background, I suppose, to a lot of people? Is I don't have a lot of. I quite like Guinness and some of the commercial beers because for all their faults and the way they do business, they are often quite well-made beers. I know that's probably not a great answer, but that's probably the background I come from, which is enjoying well-made, modest strength, balanced beers. And Guinness has a lot of faults in it, but at the same time, it's in terms of quality, it's very consistent. It's very well-made. Then, which fits with, I really enjoy, I don't know, Sierra Nevada, but it has similar, there's similar things there, in the terms of consistency and style and, the way that they can bang it out day after day. I'm not necessarily looking for something tremendously exciting. I think that's probably my age more than anything else.
But would it be fair to say that is the brewer's biggest challenge? Because you're dealing with variable ingredients. Each harvest is different. Like the biggest challenge for you guys is to make a product that is consistent within the parameters of the beer you make it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where the skill of the brewer comes in. It's probably not necessarily exciting or sexy to say it, but it's quite easy to make beer well. But the skill, the difficulty is to do it day after day, year after year, week after week. Is that consistency? That's where the work comes in. You've got hops. The brewers here are working with hops from North America, some from the UK, continental Europe. You've got malt coming in from Ireland, all these things, and coloured malts from overseas as well. All these things are varying from year to year, season to season, field to field even. And it's the job of the brewer to make sure that the customer doesn't see a difference in quality. If you're a winemaker, we'd be saying, oh, it's a different vintage. That's not my fault, it's the vintage. But brewers don't have that.
Yeah, I've actually heard someone say that. It's like, for a winemaker, it's like, yeah, it was just a bad year. But a brewer doesn't get that jail card.
That's right. No, we have to sort of suck it up.
Absolutely. Oh, so these are the hops this year, so you make what you can out of it. The guy in Bordeaux, the grapes are rubbish. It's a bad year, so we're
trying to explain to the customer. Oh, it's not my fault. It's that nobody wants to hear that. People are so used to consistently well-made beer from breweries that we're expected to maintain that, and that can be quite a challenge.
Peter, I'm thinking the Porterhouse's business model is obviously was predominantly keg focused, and the past 12 months plus has put a bit of a stop to that, and they obviously had to pivot quite a lot into small pack. How has the local response been to that shift? Have you got kind of quite a lot of force locally?
And what do you mean in terms of local customers specific to our area, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we've certainly seen, as you correctly pointed out, we were focused on draft beer, rightly or wrongly, but it was something we were addressing at the point of the pandemic emerging, but it just brought it home that we weren't really in that area as well as we should have been. So we've worked very hard to address that. But we have seen we've seen a really good uptake. In fact, to be honest with you, we're very busy now. It's remarkably successful, and we're pleased with the outcome of it. to be honest with you. It's still not easy. You know, the last 12 months for brewers has been diabolical, to be honest with you, for the majority of brewers. Some brewers have been less poorly affected than others, but those of us who operate in a draft market scene have found it quite a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as I said, personally, like one of the very, very small wins was in the likes of Rasslers and Hersbrucker or Hammer, sorry, going into cans and stuff like that. So it was
it's Hersbrucker.
A nice thing to see us.
Yeah. No, apparently, but I'm not. Subject to the marketing department, but yes, it's Hammer now, but it was Pils or Hersbrucker. Showing your age now.
Yeah, that was one of my formative beers. Yeah, absolutely. Like so many people here today. The I suppose the role that the Porterhouse has played in starting people on their beer journey. Just I suppose I'll say it, and it might be a nice way to start to conclude our formal evening. Just to say thank you so much for what you've done for the independent Irish beer scene. Just like an absolute pillar of it in general, both yourself and the Porterhouse, but like the beers you've been producing, the impact you've made on so many brewers who we speak to, I suppose, this week, but also over the past year plus for all these events. Every single one of them will say that the Porterhouse was part of their formative years. That's where they tasted proper beer, and that's where it all started. So I suppose on behalf of myself, for a lot of people, I'll just say thank you so much for what you've done.
That's great.
Fantastic.
You know, makes, I wouldn't say more, like, yes, it makes it all worthwhile, I suppose, but it's, you know, it's a lot of working in this industry is nothing if not satisfying and, you know, enjoyable. Hard work at times, as we've already heard, but it is satisfying, and this is great. So thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Peter. As I said, folks, I think we'll start to wrap up our formal proceedings this evening. So I just wanted to again say thank you so much to Peter. Peter's the chairman of the Independent Craft Beer Association of Ireland, of the ICBI. So that's a fitting end to our Indie Beer Week to have him on to chat, and of course, what a beer to finish off the week. That concludes our whistle stop tour of the country as well. So we started off in Waterford earlier on. We stayed in Cork for 2 beers, went to Westmeath, to Athlone, up to Donegal. We had Roscommon via Donegal, we'll say, or Donegal via Roscommon, I'm not sure. Waterford, Kerry, and then 2 beers in Dublin at the end. So it just shows the absolute incredible breadth, talent, incredible beers that have been produced around the island. It's fantastic to see. Just to try and wrap things up at the end here, we've said it all week, we said it in every single communication, but like, it's just thank you so much for your support, what you've done, picking up a beer box, buying a ticket to the events. The impact of the support for the independent brewers, it can't be overstated in what it means. So thank you so much. This evening, Wayne, absolute pleasure having you on co-host, absolute gentleman, great crack, brilliant, and thanks a mil, and we'll be chatting afterwards. Elizabeth in the ICBI, absolutely stellar, stalwart work and getting everything done. It's been a pleasure working and pulling all this stuff together and having a fun event this week. Vaughn as well, absolutely brilliant in the background with the admin and a lot of marketing stuff. So it's been fantastic. And all of our brewers, of course, like making absolutely stunning, incredible beers that we've been privileged to enjoy this week. Lovely stuff. And for me personally, it's been an absolute pleasure, a privilege, and honor to be chatting, to be on and hosting this week. So thank you so much to everyone. So at that, we will say we'll wrap it up there. We'll say good night, and thanks a million, everyone.